Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Tuesday morning. Well, another small market team in a not-so-glamorous location is very close to an NBA title. Milwaukee did it. Denver did it. Toronto claimed a championship. And now Oklahoma City's up 3-2 on Indiana. The Thunder win 120-109. And I thought there were at least 3 good reasons this happened. I mean, we can't ignore the obvious. Without Halliburton, the Pacers wouldn't be here. And although he did play 34 minutes, that clearly wasn't Tyrese Halliburton. Something's wrong with that calf. He's hurt. He did not score a basket from the field. His only 4 points came at the free throw line. And if I told you Halliburton's going 4 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, you would pick the Pacers to lose. And you would be right. Thunder win at 120-109. A couple other things I thought happened for them along the way, and we were talking about this one yesterday. SGA's the star. SGA's the MVP, but Batman usually has to have Robin. There are exceptions. I don't think Dirk Nowitzki or Hakeem Olajuwon really had anyone who fit that model, but most championship teams do have Batman or Robin. And Jalen Williams is Robin. Now, he started out really poorly. Those 2 first home games, man, he didn't score it. He didn't shoot it that well, but he's been getting better every game. And we were talking about that yesterday. I called out the numbers for the first 4 games. The points and rebounds increased every game. And then he exploded with 40 points in Game 5. My gosh. Again, if I told you yesterday Jalen Williams gets 40 points, who you picking? You're taking the Thunder. This is the kind of thing that happens to winning teams. Second best player went off, not just for the most points he scored in the finals. That's the most points he has scored in any playoff game. He is 24 years old, and he is figuring it out at this level. I just don't think there's any way around that. And he was spectacular. And so, as he continues to figure it out, as he continues to get better, it just makes the Thunder more and more dangerous. His worst game was the first one, and they lost it 17 points. Then he goes for 19 in the Game 2 win, 26 in the Game 3 loss, 27 in the Game 4 win, and now 40. Now, I don't think he'll top 40. I think the trend stops here. But as long as he's really good and really strong performance, he doesn't have to keep topping those numbers. I mean, 14 to 25 from the floor, he shot 56%. He had 3 of his 5 threes. The only place he was kind of ordinary was the free throw line, where he's 9 of 12, 75%. That is just such a strong game. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31. So the 2 big dogs combined for 71 points. Again, things that if you knew, you absolutely would have picked the Thunder to win. And I know a lot of you thought the Thunder were going to win anyway. PK and I both did. But they went about it in a pretty traditional manner. They got their big 2 really juiced up. Now, from the total team perspective, I think a third thing you got to look at, Williams going off, and I'm just taking SGA being really good, 31 points, 10 assists. I'm just taking that for granted. But I thought one thing that just really jumped out is the turnovers and the points off turnovers. Man, Indiana's got to be better with the ball. You're going to Oklahoma City. You can't let the crowd get into it, all that kind of stuff, right? We've all heard that a million times because it's true. 23 turnovers led to 32 Oklahoma City points. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City, 11 turnovers leads to 9 Indiana points. They didn't let Indiana get anything easy, whereas Oklahoma City was feasting on the turnovers. I mean, feasting. And it weren't all in transition fast breaks. Sometimes and we're seeing it more than ever. Teams pull up for jumpers and 3-pointers in transition. So it's not all, pick off a pass, go the other way for a layup or dunk. There was some of that. But whether it was free throws because of fouls off of turnovers, whether it was threes, whether it was moving the ball and getting into the mid-range game, man, those turnovers really keyed Oklahoma City. Get the Pacers in the scramble. It doesn't have to be a 1-on-none finish. It could be 3-on-2, 4-on-3, whatever, but it worked. 23 turnovers into 32 points. You outscore them 32-9. That's a 23-point advantage in an 11-point win. Just massive. So we can all sit here and prioritize what our favorite things were. For me, I would say number one, it was just Jalen Williams figuring it out. If their top 2 players are going to be that good, I don't know what the Pacers are going to do. Well, I do know what the Pacers are going to do. I don't know what the Pacers would do to win the game. I know what the Pacers would do. They'll lose the game. And if those two can put together another game, whether it's Game 6 or Game 7, then the Thunder should wrap this up and and claim another championship as a young team, but grinding, figuring out, and doing the things you ought to do. Turnovers, fast breaks, your two leading scorers, 31 points and 40 points. And the other guys, they don't lose their star because, he left the game, but he still played a lot of minutes. But he just wasn't at full strength. He wasn't even close to it, and the stat line screams it. So for the Pacers now, their backs are against the wall now, 3-2. The good news is, for whatever's going on for Halliburton, he does have 3 days. 3 days to get healthy and get better and work on the treatment. For most calf injuries, that's not going to be enough time. But in the NBA world, 3 days is about as much as you get. And they've really spaced these finals out in an effort to get their best basketball, their most attractive basketball. As PK likes to say, it's a TV show, and you want the product at the highest level to look good. So you give players rest, chance to play with a lot of energy, chance for coaches to tweak things, and for guys, for any little bumps and bruises to kind of get sorted out. This feels more major than that. That's what this feels like. This feels more major than that. So Thunder now up, and we'll see what they do. They did that without Caruso. He'd scored 20 points off the bench in each of their 2 victories. And offensively, he does other things for them. He defends. He's an energy guy. Get some steals, which he did. He had 4 of them. They had 15 as a team. So he can do other things. But when it comes to putting the biscuit in the basket, 2 points on 1 for 8 shooting. He didn't get to the free throw line. He was 0-3 from 3. And I think the Thunder need to take that as a good sign. They won this game anyway. And Caruso's going to be up and down. That's why he's a bench guy. That's why he's a role guy. Always bring the energy. Things aren't always going to click for him. But they're also not always not going to click for him. So they won a game when he was subpar. I wouldn't be surprised to see him have one big game here in these last 2. That would not surprise me at all. So we'll see how it plays out. They got 3 days to get this locked and ready to go, and see if they can close it out in Game 6 and wrap this thing up. All right, what else happened last night in sports? Shohei Ohtani happened. Shohei back to being a two-way star. Remember, that was the reason that he was such a big deal when he came to the United States. This guy is going to pitch and hit home runs. Now, he's had 2 major injuries, 2 major surgeries, and when he has pitched, he's been good. But he has been so awesome at the plate. He doesn't have to be a two-way guy to be a celebrity. He is just such a show at the plate. Nonetheless, they ran him out there. It's probably a month earlier than we thought we'd see him. They were talking about July, maybe in late July, and here it is mid-June. And he only went 1 inning, gave up a run on 2 hits, and threw 28 pitches. So that was that. So it wasn't a lot. It was a bullpen game for them, another bullpen game, and they won it. It took 7 pitchers, and they beat the Padres 6-3. And by the way, Ohtani at the plate was great. And that rhymed, and I didn't mean for it to. That just happened, but my gosh. 2 for 4, drove in 2 runs, also had a walk. The 2 outs he made were strikeouts, so go big or go home, I guess, is the way you look at it for Ohtani. And he had a double. He had a 2-out, 2-run hit, so he's the man at the plate. And his double in the 3rd inning tied the game up. And then he had a single to score another run in the 4th inning when they basically won the game there, as they went nuts and scored 5 times in the 4th inning and blew it open and won 6-3 and beat the Padres. So Dodgers keep it going, and Ohtani shows that, he's the man, right? All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We got a lot coming up this morning. Stick around. Still ahead this morning, we're going to talk hoops with Steve Cleveland. The former BYU basketball coach will join us a little bit on the finals and looking ahead to more on the NBA draft. Also coming up, Brandon Huffman from 24/7 Sports. We'll talk a little college sports with him. Also, coming up this hour, and we'll get to this next, Mike Folta and Kalani Sitake. Mike Folta, the radio voice of the Utah Mammoth. It's hard not to say Utah Hockey Club. It's such a habit. And then also the BYU football coach. We'll hear from Kalani next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, this is 97.5 The Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. So we were broadcasting live golf tournament yesterday. Kids on the move. Good cause, KOTM.org. You can go find out more about it. And Kalani Sitake was there. And we talked to him a little bit about golf. And the BYU coaches have their golf schedules planned for this week, that's for sure. He made that clear. But he also talked about some of the big issues facing BYU football. He could not talk about Jake Retzlaff. That was made clear to us before he came on. But there are plenty of other things to talk about. And, man, you could really, as you listen to this interview, I think you really hear the voice of Lavelle Edwards running through this. And why not, right? Kalani's in college. Lavelle's the coach. Kalani's playing at BYU. And that's his frame of reference. That's what he knows. But his message basically for any speed bump that is ahead for BYU, whether it's more conference consolidation, whether it's changing rules on rosters. And, man, I thought that was a cryptic. Listen for the cryptic response from Kalani on the rosters. Some teams did and some teams didn't, and now apparently you don't have to, and some teams were in the know. And Kalani is just like, everything's going to change, and we're just going to have to adapt and figure it out as we go. Very calm, very, sure, they're going to be curveballs. Of course, it's going to be difficult, whatever. We figure it out, and we go on. And they largely have. BYU fans haven't had to put up with a lot of losing. They have had to put up with some, mediocrity, high-level mediocrity, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But they haven't had to put up with a lot of losing. And so Kalani's 2 losing seasons really stick with people. But he's course-corrected after both of them. And I think it's easy in retrospect to see why both of them happened and why they were able to bounce back from both of them. And now they got double-digit win seasons 3 times in 5 years. Man, do not take that lightly. That is hard to do. And we have brought that up when the Aggies have done it. We brought it up when the Utes have done it. A double-digit win season, that's a heck of an accomplishment. One is a heck of an accomplishment. And we've talked about every time a team's done it. Now, he's done it 3 times in 5 years. Kyle's had some stretches like that. Aggies have been a little more up and down. They've been in 3 and 5 years, but they've had a few double-digit seasons mixed in, no doubt. Those are hard to pull off. And I think Kalani pulls them off in part because he takes this attitude. He's telling his players never get too high, never get too low. And you can hear it in his answers, whether it's NIL, whether it's conference realignment, whether it's the non-conference scheduling, which now is 3 games, but was obviously 12 for them. Whether it's the changing rules around the playoffs, which actually he clearly likes. We didn't get into that in depth, but just his passing remarks on that, go to 12, go to 16, let more teams have a shot at it. It was a little surprising that BYU wasn't talked about more for last season, and they really didn't seem to be on the radar when clearly I thought they were somewhere between team 12 and 15 and should have been talked about. If you're in that range, but for whatever reason, they weren't. And I think a lot of that has to do with being new to Power 4 football and being in a league that isn't likely to get the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it might, but I just don't think it is likely to get the benefit of the doubt. Anyway, here's Kalani Sitake talking football with us until they demanded that he go away and go down to the golf tournament. We were getting notes passed to him. This has to be the last question. And then Kalani's over there. And another thing. It was awesome. All right, here's Kalani Sitake with PK and I on The Zone.
We should say off the top that we know everybody wants to hear about the quarterback position and Jake Retzlaff, but Kalani's got an army of lawyers over one shoulder and an army of administrators over another shoulder. He can't talk about that right now, so we're going to have to set that aside. There'll be a time that more questions can be answered, and we all look forward to that. So let's go to another really difficult question that people want that you can talk about because you don't have the army of lawyers and administrators. The House settlement has come. I've talked about now there's going to be an NIL clearinghouse, and we have all wondered, how is this possibly going to work? Is this going to be challenged by lawyers right away? How are coaches recruiting when the way NIL has worked the last couple of years is now out the window? How are you adjusting all this on the fly? How are the kids and parents adjusting all this on the fly? How's the industry handling this?
It'll be fine. I mean,
that was such a Lavelle answer. You had such a Lavelle answer right there. That was
I'm
awesome.
Actually glad that you took a while to speak because it gave me a chance to recover from walking up the 2 flights of stairs that I had to get to come and hang out with you guys. And so, no, I think the game itself is an amazing game. So I have great, following altogether in college football. There's a lot of people that are interested in it. The playoffs are improving every time that they take a look at it and they adjust. And so I think this adjustment, that's what the game is. I mean, whether it's the rules or the way we hit, or when we can recruit, when we can sign, can we pay the players, or how does that payment come through? Is it a rev share or a NIL? I mean, as we go through it, I think everyone's trying to figure it out. I just know that you have to be ready to adapt in this game, and so I'm it was interesting because looking at the roster spots and everything, we were under the impression that we had to cut our roster to 105, and now you're realizing that that's probably not the deal, but it seems like some schools cut the rosters down and others didn't. So some were in the know and some weren't. So we obviously have to adjust to all that. And that's the game. The game is coaches are required to learn the rules, and every year they change, and they're trying to improve the game. And as long as there's excitement, there's a great following, I think we'll be fine. We'll just find ways to make it better. And I think the game is getting better, but it's never going to be perfect right away, but we'll get there.
I think the bigger point, Coach, is that Brian Santiago taking over as athletic director, succeeding Tom Holmoe, and now he's speaking more from an authoritative standpoint since he's got the title, is that the message that he's sending, whatever the rules are and however they're implemented and whatever changes are there, BYU is ready to adapt and ready to try to win at the highest level. That's what I take in just a short time as his administration has gotten going. Respond to that.
Yeah, I think Brian, I'm excited about Brian being the athletic director, and I'm excited to follow his leadership. I think it was amazing seeing Tom usher us into the Big 12 and the changes that's happened. I mean, when I got here, we were an independent team, and which I've never been a part of that before. So when I got here, Tom and I discussed it, and he said, hey, we have to operate as if we're going to be a P5 team at the time. And so I said, well, the best way to do it is we just got to get some competition and see where we stand and match up with these guys. And luckily I have some experience when I was at Utah with A-Rod and Jay and those guys, and with Kyle. And so it was like, okay, if we want to be able to match up, we got to see how our team is and the depth of talent. And so we did that and had some difficult schedules. And we had to be creative with it because most of our schedules were front-loaded. And but I think it allowed us to see where we need to improve on, and there's a lot of different areas. And so with the hopes that we would get in the Big 12 or a power conference, and then we end up doing it, and then I think it's kind of like Tom's ready to pass the baton to someone else. I mean, he's ready to hang out and put his toes in the sand and relax and play some golf, and I think Brian's ready, and he seems excited at the opportunity, and I think he's been chomping at the bit for a while now, and this is going to be exciting to see him roll. But I think he understands the game and how different it is, even from basketball to football to volleyball, soccer, things like that. It's a different time. So he has the skills and the ability to lead us, and I'm excited about what we can do as a football program.
There were a lot of unknowns when you joined the Big 12, obviously, and half the league is changing membership. Do you feel like you have your arms around the league and you know what it is now, or is that another thing that's constantly evolving and changing, and you just got to figure it out on the fly as you go?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more I'm around it, the more I just realize how we've had some new coaches in the conference come in, and it's just going to be difficult. Everybody's got a good team, and everyone now has the money and is able to pay players, things like that. So we have to find our competitive advantage and our niche and what's going to make us unique and different than everybody else. And that's the exciting part about it. I think when you put things together, the strategy, the scheme, the culture, everything that goes into building a program. For me, that's what's exciting, and seeing how we match up, and if we can get this point where we can win a Big 12 championship. That's the goal.
We know the returning players, and you got a lot of them. I wanted to hit you up on some of the transfers. You got the Gentry kid, offensive lineman, and then here just recently You got a couple of animals. You got bear and tiger coming to your program. Bachmeier, one's a receiver, graduated from Stanford in 2.5 years. Well, it took me double that to graduate from ASU, so you know my level of intelligence compared to his. And then Bachmeier, the quarterback, the youngster, you're talking to some guys in your program, and they're super excited. Speak to the transfer class as far as who you think that you brought in to be able to help your team this very season.
First of all, ASU degree goes a long way, just
Thank
so you
you.
know. So I have a lot of great friends that have graduated from that university, and so that's not an easy task either. So, I mean, overall, having the guys join our program, and honestly, we had connections to all of them from before. You know, whether the ability for us to get them at the first time, I'd rather sign them right out of high school.
Sure.
But the fact that we've been given the transfer portal means that we get a chance at getting them back again. And when they enter the portal, we have to go, we have to go as strong as we can to get our team better depth-wise. But the key is that we know that they are a good fit from them as on the personal side. And so,
same thing with Tonavasa.
Yeah. I mean, those guys. I mean, we just knew that there was a connection already on a personal side, and whatever the reason was before why they didn't come, that's really more on their side than ours. I mean, we're at the point where we just want to get as many guys that fit our program and fit what we're trying to get done on the football field and off. And so I think that having the opportunity to recruit guys again, I mean, when it's all said and done, I want to do it the first time. I'd rather just skip the portal and let them be here the entire time. But the hard part is that the portal is available and it is out there. I just don't want to make a huge living on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I love having these guys there, and it's good to confirm that we were right, that they are a good fit for the locker room and for what we're trying to do as a mission of our team.
There's so many kids in the portal. How many people do you have to add to your staff? 5 years ago this isn't a thing, and now it is.
Yeah.
There are kids coming from 130 schools. You've gotten kids from Weber State, so that's another 100 schools at the FCS level. You can have people watching film nonstop, so you're prepared the moment the dam breaks and the portal opens. How many people do you have doing that?
Yeah, I mean, and I think we're trying to figure it out. I think we need a lot more. I mean, that's the part of getting the right resources, making sure that we have all the bodies in the right spots. But, I just want to make sure that the focus is on these young men still getting their degrees. I think as everybody starts to transfer to different schools, the good number of our guys that are coming in are on track to get a degree within the 4 or 5 years. But the problem is when kids transfer multiple times, not all the credits transfer with them, and so many of them have to.
That's why it took me 5 years, because I went to NAU first, or else I would have got it done in 4, Kalani.
I was about to say that was the next sentence I was going with, but no, but you're right. It's just, when you take all these classes, not all of them transfer for some reason. I think that's just more on the school and maybe a little bit of their pride in it. But the goal is still get a degree for these young men.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure that all their progress is working towards that, because that's the one thing we can definitely control. We can't control what the next level and opportunities are going to happen there.
Now, you are pulled in 1,000 different ways as the head coach, and you chose to be here today.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, normally our vacation would start Friday of last weekend, right? But now that we have official visits in June, we kind of have to hang around for the next 2 weeks, and so we have our final recruiting weekend coming this next upcoming weekend for the summer, and so we got to hang around for a little bit. So I decided that, this last week we should make it a golf week. So if there's golf tournaments, we want to push them to this week that we want to participate in. And if guys aren't in the golf tournaments, then they're probably playing golf somewhere on our staff this entire week in the morning. So I hope they can get tee times and stuff like that.
But you wanted to support this cause.
I want to support this cause because it runs deep to me. I mean, first of all, I love the people that are involved, and I love the cause, and just being able to help, families that have young ones in autism, and just being able to just help. Our daughter is on the spectrum, and so we're trying to find ways to communicate and trying ways to get better, and so I can't imagine what all the other parents are out there and how hard it is. And when you care about your child and it's hard to communicate, I'm going to support people that want to make lives better and help families. And so if it means that I have to come out here and make a fool of myself on the golf course, so be it. I just want everybody to know that I don't ever practice, which is why I don't expect to ever be good in this game. But you can always count on me to be someone that you can beat and definitely win. If our foursome wins, it's not because of me. It's probably because Fessy.
Fessy, yeah, he's the ringer. I was trying to think who's the best golfer on the staff.
It's Fessy, then Jay Hill, probably
okay.
that
Just
order.
go over the golf team, get a ringer, get an ex-Cougar golfer or something, get a ringer. I've heard other coaches.
No, he ain't like that coach up there.
Well, we could definitely do that, but it's always going to cost something,
Okay, all right. There's always a price to pay.
Yeah, no, but the goal is have fun and just be. I mean, guys, I love being around people. It's good to see you guys face to face. I know many times we're on the radio and on the phone and stuff like that. So I just like connecting with everyone.
We'll be there next week, and I'll be in Texas in about 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I just like the interaction, especially after what we experienced in COVID. So anytime I can get out and see everybody and hug people, I'm going to do it.
Well, they want you on the course, Kalani. We could talk to you for a while, but you got to go hug somebody down there.
Don't watch the group that's going to be starting on hole 2 right now.
Okay, we'll ignore whatever happens on the second tee box.
Yeah, well, if you think I'm horrible at golf, wait till you add like 4 or 5 people watching me. So if there's a camera watching me swing, the ball might spray right or left, but I'm going to look forward like it just went this. Perception is reality.
You told me that time at Pebble on the first tee.
Oh, yeah, when everybody was watching me, and I'm like.
And then your second shot, you piped it?
Well, yeah, I topped it and went like 5 yards in front of me, and everyone's kind of like moaning. And then I got on the green because I was just, what else do I have to lose? I can't make any more fool of myself. So got it right. I mean, I got on the green and then 4 putted, so that was awesome.
Thanks, Kalani.
Appreciate it, guys.
There's Kalani Sitake at the golf tournament with PK and I, kids on the move. All right, when we come back, Mike Folta, radio voice of the Utah Mammoth. We will talk with him next. And also, he grew up in Indiana. He is all about the Pacers. We'll get to that next. DJ and PK, proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. We had Mike Folta on, Utah Mammoth radio play-by-play voice, and a guy who grew up in Indiana. So, by law, he has to love the Pacers. Not by law, but it's in his DNA, that's for sure. As a sports fan, he loves his Pacers. Now, when we talked to him yesterday, obviously it was 2-2, and he was hoping for the best in Game 5, and obviously they didn't get that. Jalen Williams went off for 40 points. The Pacers turned the ball over way too much and gave the Thunder way too many points in transition. And Oklahoma City, they wobbled in the fourth quarter. The lead got cut down to 2 points. They could have had Game 1 flashbacks, and maybe they even did a little bit, but they pulled it together and they won by 11. So Mike ended up disappointed. So take that with a grain of salt. But here's the conversation with Mike Folta, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone.
Mike, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Sorry to hear the jackhammers going off in the background. A lot of work going on at Delta Center with the renovations underway. But we're in the middle of the Stanley Cup Finals right now, so getting ready to wind down the hockey season. But just like that, you guys were talking about the college football season revving up here. NHL season will be firing up shortly after that, which is crazy to think about. And then we'll be off and running in the first year for the Utah Mammoth in the rebrand. So a lot of exciting stuff coming down the next couple weeks here.
Have you been able to figure out what is going to happen next in the Stanley Cup Finals, or is it just one gigantic mystery and you just turn the game on and then just let it happen?
I don't think anybody has any idea. I think the one thing we do know is that for the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, two of the best players in the world, we know that those guys are not going to go down without a fight. They have been searching for that cup for a couple of years now. This is their second straight year in the finals against these Florida Panthers, and the Panthers are that good. They might be they are the best team in the league from top to bottom. At least they're putting that case together right now. They added Brad Marchand in via a trade, which looks like a crazy deal now because Marchand has been incredible for the Panthers. He was formerly with the Boston Bruins, and Boston gave him away for a bag of magic beans, essentially. But now Florida is looking pretty scary, but it's time for a legacy game from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. because they have their backs against the wall, and they play tomorrow night down 3-2 in Florida. And if you're going to be one of the great ones, if you're going to put together a magic kind of storybook here this season and win the Cup, got to win this game.
We look at Florida, and maybe they have a little bit of a dynasty. Tampa before that. It's crazy to think that the NHL power resides in the state of Florida, of all places. Although I heard somebody say, hey, I'm sick of that storyline. Most of the guys are from Canada anyway, so what difference does it make? But anyway, what do you see in Florida and how the team has been built that could translate to what the Mammoth can do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and one we've been kind of circulating amongst the broadcast team the last couple of weeks. Like, man, what does Florida have that we want Utah to have? I think one element that you see with Florida that every team wants to have is size and team toughness up front with their forwards, and I think the Utah Mammoths have that degree of toughness. There were I think they were third. Utah was in fights last year, so you got guys that are willing to stand up for each other and mix it up. You had Clayton Keller taking a puck to the face, getting 12 stitches, popping right back out onto the ice, and not missing a game. So we've seen that toughness, but Utah maybe lacks some of that size up front, and we see that make such a difference in the playoffs when over the course of a playoff that span a couple months, if you have guys that are big and mobile, that will really wear on a team over the course of a 7-game series. And you also, it helps to be big to be able to withstand all the hitting and the physicality that happens in the playoffs as well. You got to be able to take the hits, not just give them. And so I think Utah has, that toughness, like we said, but maybe looking for some size to add in free agency or via trade here this summer.
I think as people hear this and try to get familiar with, some more nuances of the game, when you talk about size, physical toughness and that, I mean, fights are an easy stat, so it's one way to measure it. I get why you bring that up. But when you're watching a game, do you notice more the big hit in the corner and the ability that gives you to win the puck back? Do you notice more someone who's big enough and physical enough to put a body on someone who's, the rush is on and you can just kind of push a guy, just kind of ride him a little towards the boards, a little worse angle, and give your goalie a little bit of help? The crunching hit at mid-ice. I mean, where does that physicality really matter that it starts to translate to goals or goals prevented and wins?
Yeah, there's an intimidation factor, but there's also a practical factor with the physicality, and you see the practical factor play a factor over the course of the series, and that's why the physicality is so important, because you're playing the same team up to 7 times, that when those defensemen go back to get a puck in their own end, and they know that they have some lunatic streaming down their neck going to run them through the wall, that affects their decision-making, and by the time you get to game 5, 6, and 7, those defensemen are tired of getting hit, and they might try to get rid of the puck sooner or make a snap decision that they shouldn't because they know that they're going to get hit. And so that's where it's kind of a battle of attrition a little bit, where maybe in game 1 you're hitting guys, you're finishing your checks, you're establishing a hard forecheck, but you're not necessarily seeing the fruits of your labor. But throughout a series, you'll start to see more of those turnovers as defensemen know they know the hit's coming and things like that. So I think just because of the nature of playoffs, because they're series, that's why you see it. The game is a lot more physical than the regular season, which is still very physical, but you have less time. You only have 60 minutes in a regular season game to establish a tone and to put the fear of God in those defensemen, whereas in a series you've got potentially 7 games.
When you brought up that 12 stitches and coming back, I recalled one of the greater quotes I've ever heard from Bill Armstrong. Well, he came back after having the facial injury, but that's what we do. We bleed on the ice. And that was just awesome.
Well, so and he's a scary guy himself, Bill Armstrong. I mean, back in the day, he was He was using the other teams as, human speed bags. So he's no stranger to bleeding on the ice. But he values that toughness, Bill Armstrong. And like I said, I'm pretty sure Utah was, I want to say, second or third in most fights. A lot of that thanks to Spicy Tuna. Jack McBain also dropped the gloves quite a bit. Fighting is just one element of the game. It's not necessarily a true indicator of how maybe tough your whole team is. You could just have a couple guys that fight a lot. But Utah did have plenty of guys who were willing to defend their teammates. And that matters because if you're going to go out and deliver hits, sometimes you're going to have to answer the bell.
I'm wondering now, with the draft coming up here in a bit, you spoke of that size and not so much the toughness. We saw some of the guys that they've signed already, massive dudes, 6'5", 6. I think two got 1.66. What do you think they do as far as beefing up that size? Now it could be, you take these guys and it takes a couple years or something, or do you think they might make a trade?
Yeah, at the 4 spot in this upcoming draft, which is where Utah is after winning the draft lottery, you're just taking the best guy available. So they're probably not looking to necessarily fill that to fill that size void that I was talking about. They're probably just looking at who's the best guy that we feel like in this spot, because there's probably a bit of a drop-off after the 8th pick in this draft. So if you're in that top 8, you're getting a really, really good prospect. We pretty much know we know who the first 2 picks are going to be. And then the draft kind of starts at 3 with Chicago. And then Utah at 4 will have they'll be in a really interesting spot where they could go a lot of different ways. But the good news for Utah is that there's a bunch of big centermen who will be on the board in that 4 spot, more than likely. And the center it's a premium position, not quite like quarterback, but still very valuable. Think of it maybe like an edge rusher or something like that in the NFL draft. It's an extremely valuable position, and to get one of those guys to improve the spine of your core moving forward would be huge. But again, there's a good chance we don't even see that guy for a couple of years. You mentioned BK, the 6'5" and 6'6" guy they just signed. 2 guys from Russia, and these guys are machines. They're mammoths. It truly is what they are. You have Dmitry Simishev, who was a former 6th overall pick. He's, I think, 20 years old, 6'6" defenseman, got great hips, an elite skater. And then Daniil Boot, who is 6'5", a power forward. That's kind of what Utah needs right now, someone with size who will go right to the net and add that scoring touch. They've both been playing over in the top Russian league, the KHL, for the last couple of years. So they've been playing against men, and it sounds like it's not going to be a huge adjustment, I don't think, for them to play against other professional athletes here in training camp and things like that in Utah. The biggest adjustment for them will be, I think, the rink size, just because it's a smaller rink here in North America, and you have to make decisions a lot quicker than what you do on those bigger rinks over in Europe and Russia. So really excited to get Simishev and Boot over, because those guys, we don't know a ton about them because they've been over in Russia, but we know that they're good. The team has invested a lot of draft capital in them, and they'll have a chance to make the team in camp.
I'm curious how they handle these players as they come in. We're obviously going to relate everything to the NBA, and we've seen where really young players have been put on the floor. A young point guard gets put on the floor with 4 starters, so he's not asked to do much. Now, I don't know that you'd want to put somebody on the first or second line, right? And then as the player gets better, his stats get worse because he gets left out there with the backups, because now the coach trusts him and he just has the backups play together because he doesn't feel like you have to prop him up with starters. How does that get handled as far as what line or who you partner with someone as a defenseman, or what line you put them on if they're attacking?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's been interesting for Utah because the team has been so young that there's really no place to hide those young guys. right? I think of Logan Cooley, who was Utah's number one centerman for large parts of this year, and he's going up against, Connor McDavid. He's going up against Alexander Barkov's line. Barkov's the best defensive forward in the league. He's with Florida in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. And those are the matchups that 20-year-old Logan Cooley is getting. So there really is no place to hide him, and that's kind of what makes me so excited about guys like Cooley is that as he gets older, he'll handle those matchups better and better. And he took a big jump statistically from year 1 to year 2, and I expect the same thing from year 2 to year 3. And that's why Bill Armstrong brought in some of the veterans he did last year to help with those matchups, especially on defense. He brought in Ian Cole, who's a Stanley Cup champion who took a lot of tough minutes. Mikhail Sergachev, I mean, he's not a rookie or even close to that. He's 26, 27 years old, and he was out there on the ice against every team's best player. But that's what those top players have to do is get matched up against the other team's best, which is why I think for Cooley in particular, he's the name that jumps to mind when I think of that question and the name that I get excited about. So if those Russians, if they're able to make a dent or they're able to crack an NHL lineup this summer, it will be interesting to see how they're deployed. A lot of times you'll see coaches kind of split up the best players so that they can handle those matchups a little bit better and not put all their good players on one line, but kind of disperse them throughout the lineup. I have no idea who the Russians would play alongside, but typically on defense, you like to put a rookie with an experienced older hand who can kind of steady the ship in case the rookie wets the bed a little bit.
Now, you being an Indiana guy, is your face going to be painted navy blue and gold tonight?
Guys, you know what I say. You know what the whole state says. In 49 states, it's just basketball. But this is Indiana. It is
Indiana. It's a way of life.
I'll be eating my pork tenderloin, watching Hoosiers, and painting my face, yes, gold and navy blue. So I'm all in on these guys. They've been so much fun to watch, and it's funny to hear the national media talk about the superstardom of Halliburton or SGA. Like, the Pacers are just a good team, right?
They are.
Can we just give credit to, like, Carlisle and the coaching staff and the team as a whole? I mean, it is a team game, but it's taken the whole team to get to the point where they are. They've needed T.J. McConnell. They've needed Benedict Mathurin. They've needed Miles Turner. It's not all Halliburton, but they've been so much fun to watch, and I hope there's a lot of, seventh grade coaches out there that are taking the Pacers style of play and trying to implement it.
My hero with the Indiana Pacers is Herb Simon. Now, he's the owner. He is 90 years old, and his wife, the former Miss Thailand, is 56. Now, Mike, that is a 34-year age gap. Yeah, Herb. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Miss Thailand?
Yes, Miss Thailand. I kid you not, Mike.
There's a joke to be made here. I'm not sure if I have the strength to make it. That's fantastic. Just a classic Indiana love story, right?
Nice, Mike. Good rally. You're kind of, you were a little worried, and I get why. You were right to be worried, and you adjusted. Good side adjustment.
Certainly on one side it is.
Peyton Manning, side adjustment, man. That was solid.
A dream come true for at least one side.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
All right, Mike. Good luck with Game 5.
Guys, thank you. Go Pacers. And Tufts up as well. Which way are you guys throwing the Tufts up? Are you doing like the Texas horns up thing, or the Tufts near the face? What hand thing are you going with?
Oh, I'll give you a hand signal, but I can't do it here.
Okay. That's good.
You're ranked number 1, though. Just leave it at that.
Depends on how they play.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there's Mike Folta. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
Shea blasting inside away from Nembhard. Shuttle feeds Dort. Right wing Duff. Wide open. Strokes a three. In there. Cha-ching. It's under money ball. Jalen Williams 33 and counting. Thunder making shots. 98-93. 8 minutes to play. Shea recovers on him. He throws it away. Wallace has it in the open court. Down the lane for the dunk. Payson Wallace to strip and the slam. Thunder 100. The Pacers 93. Timeout Indiana. Up top to Nembhard. Pump fake Dort. Drives left in the lane. Throws it away. Shea the steal. Tolman Holmgren. Driving left. Down the lane to the rim. Lays it up left hand and lays it home. And he's hacked in the act by Neesmith. Oh, the Thunder spurt back to go up 10. 107-97. A spectacular surge by Shea.
And the Thunder win 120-109. They lead the series 3-2. Jalen Williams, 40 points. Way too many turnovers for the Pacers. And Tyrese Halliburton, 4, 6, and 7. That's a shadow of his production. The calf injury bugging him. He tried to play through it, and he wasn't close to good enough, PK.
Nah, he was just out there. Obviously, He was limited. He was really having no effect on the game in the manner that we've seen him do several times this year. So I feel bad for him in the brightest moments and all. He's got that injury, but we've seen that before, and somehow he's got to shake it off. And you wonder if he can't, is he actually hurting the team because you can get somebody in there who's healthy because he wasn't giving you much because he couldn't give you much. And, it was a very interesting game because, you see the Pacers making that comeback. Then all of a sudden they started turning it over like it was – they didn't even want the ball. I mean, it was just seemed like one possession after another, and it went right back up. And that was it. And the thing that I love is that the Thunder knew what was working. They had 94 FGAs, and less than a third were threes. They had 64 two-pointers. Right on. And they had about the same percentage. I'm not saying don't take the threes, but don't force the threes. If the threes are there, take them all the way. The right guys, of course. You don't want Hartenstein jacking them up, but he didn't. He wouldn't do that. And just the shot selection was really good, and SGA, he is so smooth. And another thing that caught my eye is that after the game, the ladies doing the on-court thing with Jalen Williams, and she says, they made that comeback, and it got down to 2, and he looked at her sort of whimsically, and she said, "Yeah, you didn't know it got down to 2?" He said, "No." Don't worry about that. Yeah. Play the game. Don't let some exterior pressure. Oh, no, we've got this lead. It's slipping away. We're going to lose the series. We'll never get here again, and all the things that the mind can do.
Yeah, the mind can do all of that, and none of it. Just, hey. Yeah, need a stop right now, need a bucket right now, and then everything works out.
He acted like he had no idea, which allows you to play free, and that's cool, and they did. And they're the better team. We've been saying it all along.
Yeah, and that's his best playoff game ever. 40 points is a playoff career high for him. So he came up huge. I thought your point about the threes, it's we always talk about, hey, when the three isn't falling, find another way to score and all that. The three was falling.
Right.
They were really...
Right.
They just...
It was fine.
Yeah. I mean, they shot 44% from three,
fine.
so that was great. But they kept putting pressure on the rim. They kept getting to the free throw line, so... They never...
Take the three that's there. Don't, we have to shoot threes because some nerd said we got to shoot threes. If you're open, your feet are set, go ahead and take them. I've got no problem with that, but don't force it just because you're supposed to, as if it's some badge of honor on FGAs for threes. No. If it goes in, that's the badge of honor. And run your offense. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, don't force it. That's my whole gripe about the threes.
For Halliburton, if you can't score a single bucket in the game, I mean, I get the point that you're a leader, and to a certain degree, they're going to respect you if you're out there. So maybe even as a decoy, you have gravity. Is the cool word. You have gravity and open space for everybody else. But I mean, if you can't make one bucket the entire game, thinking you shouldn't be in.
That's what I'm saying going forward.
Yeah.
You've already earned the respect. Okay, you're going to play through it. but there comes a point sometimes, not always, but sometimes you are impacting the team negatively because obviously they could put somebody else out there, maybe give McConnell more minutes. He's been outstanding this series, but they'll figure that out here. When's the next game? Is it tomorrow? Is it Friday?
It is
what
Thursday.
Tuesday?
It's tomorrow. It's Thursday, yes. It's
Thursday.
So you got a couple of days, and because there's a travel day involved, and let's see what you got.
4.7 rebounds, 6 assists, just not even close to good enough for him. So, Game 6 coming up Thursday. People are focusing on the draft. 6 more players received NBA draft green room invitations. The expectation is there'll be 5 more later this week. Bring the total amount of invitees to the draft to 24. Maybe 2 Jazz guys will be on that list. What will the Jazz do with 21?
Oh, 2 guys they take.
Right. 5 and 21. They're going to take 24 guys.
I would think so, yeah. Makes sense.
They may like somebody who's a little off the radar. I guess they're checking the teams, and teams are turning in lists of 25 players. And
they'll be done drafting in the first round at 5.
Because?
Well, the 2 picks that they're going to have in the top 5.
Oh, okay.
You just wait.
You're waiting for that trade, baby.
Yeah, now, see, I was hoping that the lottery odds would fall their way for Cooper Flag. Mm-hmm. Well, now that it didn't, they will trade for him. So that's in the end, as long as you have Cooper Flag, what difference does it make how you acquired him, right?
Well, the second part is true, but the first part is not happening.
What part?
Where they're trading for him.
Oh, okay. What I meant to say is that in 4 years he'll demand a trade for Salt Lake. Yeah. And again, as long as if you get Cooper Flag by 24, all of us are happy.
Fact, that's true. Not happening, but it's true.
Well, I got 4 years to keep saying it.
You do. You can beat the truth. You can't be wrong for 4 years. Lakers star LeBron James said his focus this offseason is having his left knee healthy in time for training camp. He said he's feeling good after he sprained a ligament in his knee in the season-ending playoff loss to the Timberwolves. Wants to be as close to 100% as possible when training camp begins in late September.
Good for him.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
But I take being a mentor with a lot of honor. I enjoy passing knowledge. I feel like, there's no point for me to die with all this knowledge, go to the graveyard or whatever in my career with all this knowledge. I have to share it with many people as possible, and especially people that are going to help us win ball games. So I'm going to help all the young guys as much as possible. And if I help them to a level where they're better than me, then the team is better, and I'll find my role and make it work. But that's the goal, right? I would like to help these guys be the best players they can be, and that's just football.
That is 17-year vet Calais Campbell back with the Arizona Cardinals, being a willing mentor.
I always loved listening to Calais Campbell talk, just thinking that they got that big, deep voice. He's a huge man, and he was always a great interview when he was there the first time. Somewhere in the great beyond, Barry White is smiling.
A 6'8" defensive tackle. Usually the tall guys are out at end. Defensive tackles tend to be bowling balls.
He began his career as a DN.
Yeah, I believe it.
Can't get enough of your love, baby. I don't know why. Can't get enough of playing football, baby.
49er tight end George Kittle defended quarterback Brock Purdy against detractors on Purdy's new contract extension. I don't know what his winning percentage is, but when you win a lot of games, you only need 2 years to get to the NFC Championship or better. I think that's decent. One of my favorite things that I've heard is everyone calls him a check-down merchant. And then the last 2 years, he's had the least amount of check-downs as a starting quarterback. So I think he's doing pretty well.
Well, he doesn't know his winning percentage, but he knows his check-down percentage? I don't buy that. I'm not sure that's a fact right there.
Yeah,
you would think that you would know your winning percentage more than your check-down percentage. Because I've never heard that as a specific stat. And we've got stats for everything. Your check down percentage.
I haven't heard it either. I'm sure it's out there because we know that they graph every portion of the field, not just how far down the field you throw the ball, but whether you throw it the left side, the right side, down the middle, and it probably analytics people break it down even more than that. But
what is the limit for check down? Is it 3 yards? 4 yards? Does it have to go
behind the line
certain
of scrimmage,
percentage vertically, and then it's no longer a check down. This can get very, very complicated.
It could. I have not seen a formula for that, how they figured that out.
If I was Kittle, I'd be far more worried about his winning percentage. Get that down first, and then worry about the check down later.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
South Carolina star quarterback Lenore Sellers reportedly passed on an $8 million NIL offer from another college program to transfer and remain with the Gamecocks. He was named SEC Freshman of the Year after throwing for 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. And he ran for another 674 yards and 7 more touchdowns.
Well, that's got to be Tennessee, right?
I can see why
among
you would say
others.
That. Yeah,
well, I mean, they needed the quarterback. They got the money because Nico Alamalealaveda, he decided to go home to Southern California, so they needed someone.
It's a very good educated guess.
Yeah. And I know I'd heard that they made some feelers out for Levitt down there in Tempe.
Sellers' father, Norris, told The Athletic, quote, "He was offered all kinds of crazy numbers. We didn't come here to make money. We came here to get our education and play ball. And with schools calling, we're not going to jump ship because they're offering more than what we're getting. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're 19. You don't need $8 million. You're in a great spot." There were several talks, but it never really crossed his mind to leave. It's a challenge with colleges offering young guys that kind of money. Who's going to say no to $8 million for 2 years? You're going to be swayed if you don't have the right people in your corner.
Well, that's the key, that last part. You know, and we know statistics, and I know people don't want to talk about things that are tough to talk about, but we know statistics that a lot of young men don't have the fathers, and you're quoting his father, and so that would make me believe that they are in a decent financial situation to where that's not important. But for some folks, that's a big, big deal.
Right.
That could be life-changing.
I do think it was critically says at the end, who's going to say no to $8 million for 2 years? Okay, so it was $4 million per year, not $8.
Okay. Well,
which is still a lot of money. I get that. But then also, well, he didn't pass on $4 million. Some percentage of that South Carolina's paying him, whether they're paying him $1 million or $2 million. I mean, we've heard the going rate for a starting quarterback is $1 million, and I assume it's higher in the SEC.
Yeah, I think it's Kyle said $1 to $1.5 million this past season.
Right, and now it's a year later, and that's the SEC. And he put up great numbers, so he had some leverage. Yeah,
this is the way it is. Why shouldn't these young fellas get paid?
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Ohtani's 28th pitch, a 1-1 to Bogarts. A chopper to the left side. Muncy charging along the line, in the glove, throws on the run. Freeman stretches, in time to get him. And so that will strand Arise. But the Padres do get one on the Manny Machado sacrifice fly following the back-to-back singles to greet Shohei Ohtani in his Dodger pitching debut in 2025.
Shohei Ohtani pitches 1 inning, gives up a run on 2 hits, throws 28 pitches, and then starts driving in runs. He only threw the 1 inning. It was a combo bullpen game. They ended up using 7 different pitchers in there as they win 6-3, right a 5-run 4th inning to the victory.
Well, if he was a normal player, he would go down to the minors, to A, AA, single A, triple A, wherever they want to put him in that situation. We've seen that. But he's not a normal player. His bat needs to be in the lineup, so he's going to get his rehab starts in the big leagues, because the last thing you want to do is take him out of the lineup.
No, you want his RBI double in the 3rd inning, and you want his RBI single in the 4th inning. So,
and his 2 home runs tonight.
He probably will hit a couple more tonight.
So, yeah, this is the way they have to do it. They have no other choice because he's so dominant with the bat. And it's also a business, and a lot of people go see him play.
And there it is.
Yeah, so he needs to be out there as much as possible because he is the show these days.
He was fastest pitch was clocked at 100.2 miles per hour.
I was watching it, and he knew he was going to. Once he got up to 20 pitches, he knew he was only going to go one at bat there, or 1 inning, I should say. But I think he is the number one attraction in the Los Angeles market that people literally go to see, and I'm not counting the Angels because I know they're in there, but they're down. I put them.
They're down the pecking order.
Yeah. But I mean, they're just geographically. I'm talking about.
Oh,
the
you're saying
city
they're
of
too
LA.
far south to be the city of LA.
Yeah. I think
you view the Angels as Orange County's team.
Yeah, and maybe beyond, and Riverside and all those other places, those other counties too. I think he's the number one attraction in LA since Magic. In terms of, I want to see him.
Okay, so you're putting him over Shaq and Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kobe really, he was selling tickets. I mean, at the start they had Shaq and Kobe, but after Shaq got moved, I mean, Kobe had a long run there, and he's an LA legend.
No question.
Yeah.
No question he is, obviously.
But Shohei's topping Kobe now. He's reached that point.
In terms of, I want to go see him, not them. Because you just meant Shaq and Kobe. You want to go see them.
It was them early on.
Right.
It definitely was them early on.
And then he has
became
Gasol.
him.
And Gasol's a really good player. But I'm talking about just singularly. And that's taking nothing away from those other guys. I mean, obviously, Kobe was as electric as they come. And he was also a lightning rod. You can argue, in terms of lightning rod in sports, we've never had a player like Kobe Bryant, for good and bad.
How long has it been since the Dodgers had a player who could sell tickets like that? I mean,
Fernando?
you got to go back. I was going to say Fernando or Oral Hershiser.
Oral was kind of boring.
Yeah. But people went to see him because he won.
Well, he had that streak going.
Right.
The shutout streak.
Fernando had the magic. I mean, the charisma, just the...
Right, and he was also minority, so he attracts the Mexican folks. He certainly he was beyond that, but that added to that. That's one of our own. We've got to go. And the Japanese.
And Otani has that to a degree too, right? Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, they got 500 media people.
But again,
there.
It also goes beyond that.
It does.
White people lining up.
It was like Jordan. I mean, Jordan is an African American, obviously, but he's just
everybody. Yeah,
didn't matter who you were, you wanted to see. And then we saw that when they have the Olympics and everything, and
I'm trying to think
around the world.
Football doesn't. I mean, the Rams. It's kind of weird in that town. Coming and going. They don't have the hold. The Kings don't have somebody like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, they had Gretzky back when I was there.
Rest of baseball, Philly. Your Phillies had a tough stretch there. They lost 10 of 12, but now they turned it around. They won 5 in a row. They beat the Marlins 5-2. So, back on the upswing in Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, when they go down, I just go over to the Dodgers.
We know.
And also, in my back pocket, I have the Mets and Yankees.
So you got that going for you.
I live there. I moved around.
Yankees got shut out by the Angels. 1-0 final score there. Colorado, after that dreadful start, what are they doing? 6-7 in their last 13 games. They're showing some competence there, PK. Don't know what to make of that.
Me either.
Red Sox, they move a star. Do they have another one? Roman Anthony, top prospect, hit his first Major League Baseball home run. They beat Seattle. Boston wins 2-0. The Bees lose to the Aviators. That's 8 in a row. 8-1 the final. Same two teams tonight, 8 o'clock on The Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
Game 6 Stanley Cup tonight. Panthers win. They hoist the cup. Panthers lose. Game 7 in Edmonton. Those are your options. 6 o'clock tonight on TNT. And we just had on Mike Folta. We just had him on yesterday and replayed it for you in the first hour. And he has no idea what's going to happen. Nobody knows.
No.
Tune in, find out, be surprised.
And just guess.
Will they go overtime again?
The nature of the sport, and then combined with these two teams. Last year, each team had a 3-game win streak in the finals.
Yeah.
Good luck, man, trying to predict. I don't... I've been in Vegas casinos 100 times, maybe even more, at sports books, and I like to just hang out because you got all the screens there, and you see people living and dying because they're getting. I don't do it, but they put money on it. I wouldn't bet a penny. I wouldn't even bet your pennies
on
in
hockey.
No.
You just never know. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, joins us at 8 o'clock. We'll talk NBA Finals and draft with him. Brandon Huffman, national recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports at 8:30. The question of the day is next. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Joining us on the program right now, John Wilner, college football writer for Mercury News.
What are some of the issues and concerns about that 5+11 model that gives a lot of people pause?
Well, I think that it gives the selection committee an immense amount of power. They're picking 11 spots. There are a lot of reasons to be wary of the selection committee. I mean, your state is one of the big ones, right? Because I think BYU got totally hosed. That is a sentiment a lot of people feel could get repeated every year if the committee is allowed to pick most of the field. One corner is distrust of the selection committee. Another corner is the need for more money because of revenue sharing. And the third corner is that ESPN isn't on the hook to pay more if they expand the playoff. So they can't just get more money by expanding the playoff.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Don't miss your chance to win big every week on the Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win tickets to the Monster Jam World Finals, July 4th and 5th at Rice Eccles Stadium. Don't miss the biggest Monster Jam event of the year. With the finals coming to Utah for the first time, tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Listen to the Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win.
Sweet. The finals are back, huh?
Well, not back. For the first time.
No, they were here in 97, 98. I seen it.
Of those finals. Question of the morning. Why would five-star quarterback recruit Ryder Lyons choose BYU?
That's just not true. He is so good. He's a 6-star.
Oh, really?
He's a 6 shooter.
Well, that explains the visit to Oregon.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Oregon. Try to outbid us.
Nice.
I dare yous.
You got Nike money, we got tech money. And go.
Yeah.
Jason answers the question with a question. Why would AJ choose BYU in basketball?
Kevin, I'm so young. So young.
Aaron says, why wouldn't he? Everyone wants to be a part of KYU.
Well, it's a different sport. One's is football, and the other's is basketball. Ryder Lyons from Folsom High School. Yes. And you know what they say? The Folsom Prison Blues. Not the Folsom Prison's green or the Folsom Prison red. It's the Folsom Prison Blues. BYU is blue. You know what I'm saying?
I do, actually, which is weird, but I do, yes.
He, if he were to play here, would be the second Folsom High quarterback to play for Brigham Young University.
What are you doing?
How many syllables can you...
radio.
Yeah.
University.
Thank you, Howard Cosell.
Yes. Can you name the first one? So that is the home of Jake Browning, where a legendary former BYU football player coached by the name of Fred D. Whittingham.
Fred D. Whittingham.
Yes. Freddie, Kyle's younger brother, lived in that area before turning to coaching, now coaching the tight ends at the University of Utah. I didn't even know I said it, but now that you brought it up, I'm going to continue to do it all morning.
I was afraid of that. It's really my fault. Own it.
Some say he started the run of great quarterbacks to come from BYU. And he also went to Folsom. So we could have bookend Folsom quarterbacks because, of course, I am speaking of VC, Virgil Carter.
Now you're in the Wayback Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Virgil Carter, you're working on 60 years ago.
Well, some people say he started the
Virgil Carter to Gary Scheide to
blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
On down the line.
Right. And Folsom, we know, has had a good football program. We've heard of that program. I have not lived in that area as I did in the Los Angeles area for many years, but I am aware, talked to Freddie about it, talked to Kyle about it. That's actually where Troy Taylor was working too. Went on to coordinate offenses there for Utah for a couple of seasons. And so they've got, and we remember Jake Browning. I think he was a 4-year starter for Washington. And we talked to him when they would play Utah because I think that Freddie's children were buddies with Jake. Mm-hmm. He talked about, I think Freddie had a son and a daughter there that were about the same age as Jake was. And now Ryder is all supposed to be all that. You know, I don't question he's all that at this level. We've seen that. But, man, here we go again. BYU hasn't had a lot of luck with those types of quarterbacks. And you wonder, really, this is like wherever he goes. But especially, I think it's especially BYU because those kids, now A.J. DeBonce is another story. Right? He had no prior connection. Well, if you're a Latter-day Saint, which I understand Ryder Lyons is, the fan base latches on to you when you start making your move about your sophomore year, and the legend grows. It does. We've seen it.
It does. It's all true.
Right. We saw it with Tanner Mangum. And it becomes, and Jake Heaps, obviously, and Ben Olsen, and it becomes almost impossible to live up to it because it is a trail of years by the time you get to Provo. And then if you should go on a mission, add more years to it, right? And you're supposed to be a combination of Joe Montana and Steve Young. Well, who is that? You know, when the first day you enter and the hype is, well, when are you going to start and when are you going to blow up? In a way, all those other dudes were flying under the radar a little bit. We hear about Steve Young. What was he, 47th on the quarterback depth chart? He was behind 4 punters and a place kicker, I think. And Ty Detmer, I mean, all he had was chicken wing legs and an Adam's apple, and that was it. He was 5'4", 117 pounds when he got to BYU?
5'4".
Yeah.
Was he a jockey?
These legends.
Part of BYU's noted horse racing program.
So you slide under the radar a little bit. Well, nobody can slide under the radar a little bit now if you're ranked number 1 and you've got all these schools, and on top of it, you're an LDS kid. And it just... if he comes here, good luck, and maybe he can live up to it. But the idea of why wouldn't he consider BYU? That's the way I look at it. You know, when they were independent, that's another story. But they're not independent anymore. So why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you consider it? You should. They've put a number of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Why would he consider it? Okay, so he's a member of the church. There's that. They have put quarterbacks in the NFL, the NIL deal, the finances, the money's there.
Attention.
All of that lines
schedule.
Up.
Yeah.
So a long list of reasons you would expect.
Yeah. Kalani's going into his 10th year, and I do not believe he's 50 yet. So he's getting real close to 50 if he's not there. But the point being, at 50, you still got many more years to work if you choose. And he and A-Rod are of the same generation, and Fesi Sitake's there. Did they lose? They didn't lose any coach this year, did they? They returned them all?
They retained everybody.
That's rare.
Yeah. Well, especially with the success that they had.
Yeah. So they've got the stability in the program. And Brian Santiago, since he's taken over, it seems like every time he has a public speaking engagement, he says, we're trying to win at the highest level. They're making no bones about it.
Get a message.
Yeah.
Stick to it.
Yeah, right.
He's got his line for his stump speech.
They're sending the word out to not just LDS kids, but anybody who's interested in being a part of what they have to offer. We will compete at the very highest levels.
Dick Harmon has a story in the Deseret News that part of the pitch is not just football, it's that Cougar quarterbacks stick together afterwards, and they point out the money that you can make with Steve Young off in the world of finance, and now Christian Stewart has joined them, and so you got a whole future as vice president cutting multi-million-dollar deals.
Steve Young, is it a venture capitalist or a capital venturist?
Venture capitalist.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. That just sounds fancy. I literally knew no one growing up
who did venture capital
the
work.
way I grew up. And now, if you're in the janitorial aspect of it, I knew several people, but not venture capitalists. I don't even know what a venture capitalist does.
Is reading from Dick's story in the D News. The Wall Street Journal did a feature on Stewart praising his work in leading Sundance Growth, a software-focused investment firm, to a $125 million upper limit debut fund in one of the more difficult private equity fundraising markets in recent memory. He says his job is to discover the next Apple or Microsoft. You invest in them, and then when those companies take off, you make a ton of money.
But what does that have to do with Ryder Lyons?
That Ryder Lyons is getting a recruiting pitch. If you're the next BYU quarterback and you go to the NFL, great. And if you don't, you'll go make millions of dollars doing this kind of work.
So
that they're all sticking together.
At Oregon, you'd go work at McDonald's?
Yes, you would. No negative recruiting. They don't even mention Oregon. They don't even mention Oregon.
That's great.
I don't know what Achilles Smith is doing today. So
he's making a killing somewhere.
Okay.
He played in the NFL, so shouldn't that be anywhere? Is that unique to BYU?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard about networks of other quarterbacks sticking together and
you haven't
going off to make money. I have no idea what ex-San Diego State quarterbacks are doing. What are the ex-ASU quarterbacks doing?
Brock Osweiler, he does commentating for ESPN.
Okay.
Jake Plummer is just an all-around good dude was on the sidelines of what was it, the Peach Bowl? Living and dying by every play.
What's Danny White doing these days?
And he's just Danny White.
He's just busy being Danny White? I am Danny White. Come unto me. I'm the legend.
Well, he had it going on because he was local too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
that was.
We've talked about that.
Double.
The guy's ability to stay local and what that can mean to them financially down the line can be enormous.
Yeah.
And a lot of
plus
16, 17-year-olds.
So many years in the NFL. And he started in the College World Series. So
he's the man.
I've played golf with him. Yeah. He is a sort of a older version of Danny Ray Ainge. What can he do?
Right. Yeah. Multiple sports.
Right.
He wrangles them all.
And he punted in the NFL.
He did.
To just kill time.
Save a roster spot.
Right. So those guys don't grow on trees. But I think you can get that anywhere. Taking nothing away from this.
That's their pitch.
And that's fine. But I don't think Ryder Lyons is thinking, I'm not going to make the NFL. That's for way down the line.
Right. But when you have Steve Young, you're just like, okay, after you win your Super Bowl and your MVP, you come do finance work and set you up for the rest of your life.
Suppose he doesn't want to do finance work.
Yeah, then maybe he'll go to Oregon because that's their pitch, apparently.
I think you're blowing that up a little bit is the point. But it worked for Christian Stewart because I believe he was a walk-on. And so if you have marginal talent, come to BYU and Steve will take care of you. That's more of the pitch. But when you're the number one recruit in the nation,
you figure you're going to have the world by the tail anyway. So
you're thinking a little bit bigger than that.
Except we do see the number one recruit doesn't always have the world by the tail. So
when he's the number one recruit being recruited, he does.
Yes.
That remains to be seen.
In that moment, it is good.
Well, if he were to suck at BYU, I wonder if Steve would say, I'm not interested.
You threw too many picks. I'm not helping you.
Yeah. Forget it, man. This was conditional on winning bowl games, man.
If A-Rod calls and tells me you've completed 67% of your passes, then all right, fine.
And 40% of those are not checkdowns.
No checkdowns. You throwing the ball on the line of scrimmage, son?
But the point being, he should seriously consider BYU.
Well, he is, but the key is choosing, because as you have been told many times, what good does it do you to come in second in a recruiting
But not
battle?
anymore.
Because of the bounce-back kid, the transfer.
We had Kalani talk about that.
Yeah. If we don't get him now, I'd rather get him
as recently as yesterday.
I
love when you do that.
Yeah, well, you didn't let me. I would have. I mean, I don't want to disappoint you, PK. I would have done it, but you wound up and let her rip yourself.
I know. It's awesome, man. Wow. He just had that example. Yes, that was like 24 hours ago. That is so fresh.
He said, I'd rather have him for all 4 years. He was talking about kids transferring and can they graduate and how many of the units transfer. And
I mean, they at this point now, and Ryder's coming in this week, right? This is his official visit, although he's been to Provo probably 50 times, if not 100 times.
He's here
but they do you an official visit that's paid for, so you might as well do it. Since
he's got a sister that lives here locally that he was here 2 weeks ago visiting.
Yeah,
her.
he visited his sister.
As recently as 2 weeks ago.
You know what they call her? Sister Lyons.
Thank you, PK.
Right. Not Sister Golden Hair, but Sister Golden Lyons.
All right. All right.
He's got a sister here. Does every Latter-day Saint in the West have some connection to Utah? Is every single one of them? I mean, we talked about Venezuela. Wasn't there some Venezuelan guys you said the other day should consider coming to BYU?
Sure seems like it.
Jimmer Fredette had a sister, was a school teacher around here. Jimmer. And now we're here, Ryder. Jimmer, Ryder. Yeah. Come on, son. You need to come here. And is he going on that 1-year mission?
That's what he says.
What's his brother's name? Walker?
Walker. Served 14 months in Norway, then came home.
14 months in Norway? And he came home?
Now at USC.
Don't know what to make of that.
You're waiting for me to say something incendiary, and I'm not going to do it.
Well,
I'm not going to do it.
You asked the question. We were all teed up. It's like, hey.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Swing for the fences.
Because you don't want to, or because you just didn't come up with anything incendiary off that?
No, because my philosophy has always been, since I moved here and it became not a big deal, but it became more prominent, is missions are 100% off limits to me. You go. You don't want to go.
Do
you
your own
serve.
thing. Do your own thing.
That is over there.
Right.
We talk about sports, and that is between you, God, and whoever you have in your circle. And so I have no opinion. Well, I do have an opinion in guys who go. I think that is tremendous that they would do that. But I don't think any less of anyone who doesn't go. I mean, I have enormous respect for young people who would do that, but I don't have any less respect for somebody who doesn't do it. You know what I mean? I just don't want to wade into that whatsoever. That's such a personal decision. It's like, well, why'd you marry her? Why didn't you marry her?
Yeah, I'm not wading into that either.
It's in your heart, man. It's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey.
List of things I don't need to weigh in.
Yeah. So I admire them for doing it. I think it'd be really cool to go live in Norway for 14 months and not on your own. You know, I assume they have people waiting for you when you land in Norway to take care of you. And
yeah, there were people waiting for us when I got to Taiwan.
Yeah, right. So it's like a guided tour in a sense. And you're talking to a guy who's never been to Europe. You people, you're world travelers. You've been to Europe. I haven't. The chances of me going to Europe
are pretty good if you listen to your wife.
Slim. Well, if you listen to me. Oh, yeah, because her father was born and raised in Switzerland, so she went there many times. I mean, she's half Swiss.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying?
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
What?
Coming up at 8 o'clock, Steve Cleveland. And then we'll talk recruiting with Brandon Huffman, national recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports. Yes.
I believe he served. I believe he served there where the Beatles walked.
Liverpool.
I believe so. We'll have to ask him. I remember talking to him about that.
He walked across the crosswalk with some friends.
I don't know if he
did
that. I don't know if he did that. Okay. But I think that's
There's
the
a
case.
Liverpool tie.
Yeah.
Brandon Huffman's national recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports. We'll talk with him about 5-star quarterback recruits and what might they choose to do, and will it involve BYU? That's coming up at 8:30. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Artist of the day today is Kendrick Lamar. He celebrates his 38th birthday today. It's brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2025, check out livenation.com.
Do you know what his real name is?
I do not.
Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
I knew the answer to that one.
You're still cracking yourself up over there.
I thought you would get it.
A lot of celebs change their name. You're good at tracking that down.
Of course, his last name is Duckworth.
Kendrick Lamar Duckworth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Like yours, David James Snigeldorf. That's why I brought it up. It's the same concept. You drop the Snigeldorf professionally, which was shrewd. Yeah.
Made it up out of whole cloth. You're the man. Just came to you. Got a question up on our Facebook page this morning. You're still chuckling over there.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah, okay.
You want me to be happy.
I do.
And I'm freaking happy. You're still chuckling over there. Get serious.
Jalen Williams goes off for 40 points in OKC's win over the Pacers. How close can his brother Cody be to getting as good as he is?
Not even.
Jason, 10%'s my guess. That first year was real bad. I'm praying, but there's not much hope there.
Then why are you praying?
What's a miracle, apparently? Brian says, who knows? Let Cody run his own race.
Should we have a community fast for Cody Williams? Yeah, that's a problem, man. It looks like he's fasted too much.
Ben says he can get within a few time zones of him.
One.
Right now.
Well, the most, as far away as he can be is 2. And still be in the NBA.
Unless they both move. Yeah.
No, they settled in Phoenix. They did move around because the parents, I believe both the parents were in the military Air Force, I think. I know the dad was. I think his mother was too. And then they settled over there in the East Valley, over in the Gilbert area, and that's where they went to high school.
You have a lot of examples of brothers both being really good in basketball? I mean, the Currys would be the best current example. And you grew up with the Van Arsdales.
Dick and Tom Van Arsdale. Now, Dick Van Arsdale was a legend.
Twins, right?
Yes, I believe they were twins. He was, I think, wasn't Jerry Sloan the original bull?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dick Van Arsdale, they called him the original son.
Okay.
And I talked to, not when he was playing, but he did some scouting and worked for the Suns. And so I would see him on the road checking out players and stuff. And they didn't know. They knew my face. They didn't know. They knew, oh, that's the guy covers the Utes, and obviously the Utes were really good. And so talked to him a few times there. Well, I think you went with the Currys. I think I can top you. In fact, this is a great combo.
Okay.
And I can't believe you haven't said it.
Giving you all the glory. Go ahead.
No, because you can't think of it. That's why. That's it.
Possibly.
Otherwise, you would steal my thunder in a heartbeat. I understand where the lines are drawn in this relationship.
There are no lines.
I get how this game works. I'm here to make you look good, and you're here to make yourself look good. I mean, that's the way this works. We know that. Obviously, we have LeBron and Bronny.
They are not brothers.
Same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Depending on who you're talking to. I mean, in your background, of course, they're not brothers. But where I come from, they're brothers.
Yeah, right. Nice save. The Thompsons just got drafted,
Thompson
so
twins?
they're just starting.
Hold Me Now?
Starting their never liked that song. They just started their journey in the NBA. They've only been at it a brief time here. The Lopez twins.
Gasols?
They had a good run. The Gasols. That's another good brother combo. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't given up hope for Cody, but right now it doesn't look like he could be as good. When you're scoring 40 points in a crucial...
In Game 5 of the NBA
when
Finals.
The series is tied 2-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that obviously takes on a higher level of importance the longer the series lasts, the later you go. And what is it, 75% of the teams that win Game 5 in a 2-2 win the whole ball of wax. So, yeah.
Markeith and Marcus Morris. There's some more brothers who made it.
Decent.
Yeah.
But they were what's interesting here, you have in this case, you could have a Steph Curry, what's the other kid's name? Seth. In terms of one as an all-timer. Remains to be seen if Jalen Williams is going to be an all-timer, but right now he looks very good.
Mm-hmm.
And Cody Williams looks lousy. But let's give him some more time. You know, if we're still saying this, the evaluation hasn't changed this year versus last year, okay, that's 2 years then. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt right now. I don't want to be too hard on him. He was 19 freaking years old, man. And his brother played 3 years in a West Coast Conference. He still has 2 more years. Well, I guess it would be this year because he played 1 in Colorado. But he was in and out of the lineup, and he wasn't the man at Colorado. They had 2 older guys that were trying to, 3 older guys, if I remember, 2 of which made the NBA. And so he was taking a backseat to those guys. And Jalen Williams, at least at Santa Clara, was not taking a backseat. Santa Clara doesn't run out those types of players a lot. So he was able to establish himself more. But certainly the younger Williams has to show a ton more. And let's hope he does, man.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. When we come back, Steve Cleveland will join us. We'll talk some hoops with him. With the NBA Finals now, the Thunder pushing the Pacers to the brink. Stay with us. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined now by Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. Hey, can I start off with something?
Go ahead.
So last night, you know that I'm a kind of a music guy.
Yeah.
And
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I was at the Maverick Center last night to watch Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
And I've probably seen them 6-7 times, over the years, different places and different venues. But I'm telling you what, I've never had so much fun as I did last night. And to sit there, and Maurice White, who passed away as the lead singer there, and Verdine White was ill, but Philip Bailey, you guys know Philip Bailey, who he is?
Yeah.
Is the lead singer there. It was absolutely incredible. I felt like I took myself back to, in the mid-'70s. And, I can't tell you what a great time we had. It was such an electric environment that we was down at the Maverick Center. And it was packed. And it was a great way to start the week.
Yeah.
And I just give my kudos to those guys. They've been doing this a long, long time. and amazing at their age what kind of energy they have. And but yeah, I kind of felt like I was back in my early 20s and enjoying R&B.
That's funny. I've seen Earth, Wind, and Fire multiple times myself, and I was thinking the other night, I was thinking last week when Brian Wilson died, and obviously they made a huge, celebration of his life, I guess, throughout so many different avenues, television and all forms of media, and stars recognizing him. I wanted to ask what you thought of him, because I think that would have been in your wheelhouse too.
Yeah, it was, and I can remember being in Anaheim Stadium. I think Kip and I had been married for just a few years and living down in Irvine, and saw them, and it was electric as well. And I went a couple of other times. It's just fun when you can sing the words of every song they play, and you got to go back there to do that. But yeah, no, Brian Wilson was incredible, and I've seen them in a few fairs and kind of those kinds of settings with a few of the originals, but for the most part, a lot of it's for their kids and others who have kind of taken over that and gone on tours and played the fairgrounds and done that. But Brian Wilson was the man, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but his music was kind of life-changing for me. I mean, that was a time of my life that I was pretty impressionable and kind of gained my love for R&B, for pop music, and so yeah, those were sweet times, and have lots of good memories with Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, and certainly last night, man, I felt like I was back in the mid-'70s watching this thing. I didn't make a fool of myself last night, but I found myself standing and clapping and dancing and singing. I think my wife was looking at me, what are you doing? But it was so good, so good, man. Anybody has an opportunity to see Earth, Wind, and Fire right now, they're on tour. Man, it is well worth going to, and it's just fun to be able to sing and know the lyrics to all the songs they play. So anyway, thought I'd start with that.
All right, well, before we leave music, PK brought up earlier this morning that he thought, and he was fuzzy on the details, that you had some title to Liverpool and the Beatles. I'm like, did he walk across the crosswalk and do the photo? He's like, I don't know that, but there's some tie. We got to ask him about it.
I remember talking to you about it. Didn't you serve a mission there?
Yes, I did. No, yeah, okay. I got all those photos.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
It was preparation day.
Yeah, I can remember you telling me about it. I thought I did anyway, and it turns out I was right.
Yeah, I had a brother that was just younger brother was his name was Larry, and he so into the Beatles, and obviously we all grew up with that. But no, I did get a chance to kind of see some of those things. I will tell you, there was a time on my mission in London where they were playing. It was real. I'd have gotten a lot of trouble if I had taken off on my mission and gone to see that concert. I chose not to do it. That was probably a wise thing. Probably would have been sent home. But man, it was hard to be downtown London and hear that they were coming. And but yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert in terms of music, but I'm well versed enough to know what influenced me in my life for good and certainly whether it's Brian Wilson or the Beatles or Earth, Wind, and Fire. And it's just incredible, really, at their age. I mean, I'm looking at these guys, and, Berdine White, he's amazing. He was ill last night, but, I watched Philip Bailey, and of course, Maurice White had passed away. They mix and match with some young guys and siblings, not siblings, but some of the children are part of that thing. So, yeah, those are great moments. You don't get many of those anymore, and I'm ever so glad that I went last night. So it was lots of fun. I know you guys both appreciate music as well.
All right, some hoops. We might as well get started. What is your theory on playing guys who are hurt? And I know the NBA game's a little different than college. But there's a lot of talk about Tyrese Halliburton, and they're down 3-2. Can they win without him, but can they win with him? And he played 34 minutes. He limped off. There was clearly a calf injury. And He ends up with 4 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and all 4 of his points came at the line. He didn't make a basket in the game. There's a lot to be said for having your leader out there and gutting it out. And, yeah, you can be a decoy because you have gravity on the floor and you draw defenders to you and open stuff up for other people. But, man, at some point the other team figures out this guy's not healthy and he can't do it. And because he limped off and left the game and went to the locker room, it wasn't a secret. Everybody knew. He came back and played to 34, but he wasn't fooling anybody.
No, I don't know. You start thinking, I don't know exactly what his injury is. And they play 2 days from now? When's the next game?
Monday to Thursday. He has 72-hour recovery.
Yeah, and you look at guys like that, and they just don't want to be taken out of games, and I understand that, and I you know what, if I'm in their situation, and I remember playing in college and just even playing beyond college, and when you got hurt. And you do everything you could, man. I mean, I remember being in city league games, and it was huge. You're playing, and I'm playing twice a week, and I'm taping my knees, I'm taping my ankles, I'm doing whatever I got to do. But obviously, this is basketball at the highest level, and calf injuries, man, those are really delicate. But I can see him playing through that. I don't know what he's going to be like for the next game and if they'll survive, but. You look at these professional athletes, and I don't think unless and both of you know that you've been around it enough and watched these guys that at a very, very high level, how much respect you have for guys that give everything they have, even when they're injured, doing everything they can. I haven't heard anything this morning in relationship to his injury, and I'd be surprised if he's not playing. But again, I'm not a doctor, and it may be something that be maybe long-term damaging and not do it. But I know the mindset of these guys, and we think of the high school and junior college and Division I athletes. Here are the most elite players in the world, and that game, you can just tell when guys play hurt how much it means to them and how much they don't want to let their teammates down. And sometimes these things can be a real the impact that they can have in terms of bringing a team together, and we've seen that. But whether they can do it without him and finish this thing off, that it maybe be too much of a task for them to kind of pull this off. But it's not going to surprise me if he's playing.
I'm interested in your philosophy in threes in these games because they're taking fewer, but the percentages are really good, and I don't mind the three as long as it's in the context of the offense. And rather than I have a problem looking for threes and like you're on the mindset when you're coming down, I've got to take the three because analytically it's more than two. And you look at the Thunder and they have 94 field goal attempts and slightly less than a third, or about they're only about a third of threes is what I'm trying to say. But meaning that 2/3 obviously are the twos, and the percentages are really good on both, which I think is ideal. Sometimes I get a little bit bugged that they jack up too many threes, particularly not hitting at the expense of scoring. Why not take the good two? And it looks like the Thunder have an excellent balance, and it's working so well for them.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The one thing about the threes, there's so many long rebounds. And that's maybe the most difficult thing to defend is when guys are bombing away threes and they're not going. They're almost always long rebounds, and it makes it easier for your opponent to score. And I remember coaching and finally calling a timeout and bringing them together and said, listen, let's just get to the rim. And you want to take a mid-range shot, fine. But they're scoring off of us in transition. You can say what you want. You can get 3 back, you can get 4 back, and not go to the offensive glass. But that also makes it very difficult for you to be competitive and consistently score. So I just think that finding a balance between the two, and certainly, they've been able to do that in this series. But I just know as a coach, when we got kind of 3 happy and all of a sudden you're missing 4 or 5 and they're going the other way and they're scoring off layups or easy shots, and it's just hard to defend 90-plus feet where there's long rebounds all the time. It puts your defense at a real disadvantage. And it's not to say I'm not saying that we're not going to shoot threes. We are. But finding balanced threes and moving the ball from side to side, guys are more prepared when they take those kind of shots rather than just coming down. And we see a lot of it in the NBA where guys come down and just jack a three up. And it's really hard to guard there. And in close games and important games, you want to control the boards. And in transition defense, it's hard to be as effective as you'd like when there are those long rebounds. And it helps a team who maybe has been struggling to score have an opportunity and an advantage because of that situation and circumstance. But, it's a big part of the game. But I agree with you. They have been very balanced. Just watching them play and just how they move the ball and make the extra pass. And, I don't care if you're in high school or college or the pros, ball movement and making the extra pass, that ignites guys. The NBA guys aren't any different than a college player in terms of what that does for team morale and energy when you make one more, and all of a sudden you're knocking them down. These guys are great shooters anyway. But when you give them those kind of looks, those kind of open looks, hard to guard. And I think OKC's in a situation right now where I'll be really surprised. I know they got to go back to Indiana now, but I can't imagine them not winning this thing because of how they play.
Pacers had 23 turnovers that led to 32 points for the Thunder. There is no way to win. Well, there are very few ways to win when you're coughing the ball up that often. And there's one way to win, and that's to make sure the other guy is also sitting on 20-plus turnovers. That's the one thing that'll give you a chance. Turnovers are like hitting in baseball. They can be contagious. When it's getting out of control, what would you do with your teams? What would you tell them?
Well, in situations like that, I think there's a bigger picture with the game plan. And depending on your opponent, for every if we were playing New Mexico and you want to take away the three maybe because that situation and so we're going to contest that and maybe sag and help in the backside so that when you get beat on the dribble or get beat on the pass, you can still contest shots. But I think for every team, every different team is going to be a different game plan. And depending on where they're taking those shots and kind of what they're doing, I think it's really important. And these NBA guys, the coaches are experienced and smart, and the players are too. They talk about these things. But having a game plan in terms of, what are our strengths and OKC has seemed to have found kind of a balance, 23 assists in that last game, 50 rebounds. They did all the things, and shooting well from the free throw line. OKC just plays really, really smart. And sometimes Indiana, Siakam will get going, and all of a sudden he's taking shots that maybe he wouldn't normally take. And just watching these games, I feel like the game plan for OKC is a little bit different. Now, obviously, they're shooting a lot of threes. There's no question. I'm trying to remember what the stats were on that. But, you just have to be really careful about just jacking shots up, and especially there's no reason to take contested shots unless it's the end of the shot clock. These guys are all very capable off the bounce to create space and force help and take open shots. It makes me a little bit nervous as I watch the NBA, not so much here in the playoffs, but as I watch the NBA, one of the things I don't like about it is just the idea that we're just going to get up and down the floor and we're going to jack up as many as we can, and the numbers will take care of themselves. I could never have coached that way. I just think that we make the extra pass, we take that extra one, and what's wrong with pounding that thing inside as well, especially when you get teams that can shoot it. And I think that's where, certainly OKC has an advantage, is that you got to go out and guard because they are such great three-point shooters. It opens things up for penetration and a kind of a post presence as well. And OKC has some size and certainly it's a situation. But they last the other night. It's Jalen Williams. He goes for 40 and SGA goes for 31. I guess the inside presence is not that important, but at the end of the day, long term of my career, I felt like I wanted to play inside out and take one more pass to get an open three, and that was kind of my philosophy rather than just up and down, and we're just playing to get the shot off quickly and get the pace going and those kinds of things, because it is really hard to defend when you're missing threes to get back defensively and get stops.
I don't know why I'm surprised anymore, but I still am when I see some five-star high school kid and Kevin Young is recruiting him and he's from wherever on the planet. This is so crazy to me, but yet it's now the new norm for BYU basketball. And for whatever reason, it still just stuns me that this is where we are with BYU basketball. If you're a five-star, we're going after you, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, and whatever.
Yeah, we may have talked about this for a moment. I went to a few practices and watched them, and watched specifically to go see AJ play and others. And in this day and age, I don't care if you're 6'10", 6'2", whatever. Everybody kind of thinks they're a point guard.
Yeah.
They want the ball in their hands. And I remember Coach Young talking about, you can help me with the nail. Who's the young man coming from Baylor? His name has escaped me here.
Rob Wright.
Yeah, Rob Wright. And I'm thinking, I remember talking to Coach a little bit just on the sideline, and he was just giving me some updates on who some of the guys were, because I didn't know who they were. But I thought that could be a potential problem, because most guys, guys that are going out in a year and things, I think every young player thinks he's a point guard and he can handle it. And it's not to say that he couldn't, and that maybe that's where they fit, and that's how it all plays out. But I think that over time, and I think as we watch the 35 or 40 games that they'll play this year, I think Wright will have a huge influence. And even though AJ believes, I think in his mind a little bit, that I can play that way, I can do that now, and I can do it in the league when I play, and he may very well become that individual. But it's tough if you don't have a ball dominant guy who's running a team, and rather than 3 or 4 guys, and they're going to be really good. Okay, and I've watched that kid play, and he's certainly capable of handling the point and making good decisions. But I always kind of like to have a traditional situation where they'll be able to do so many things for AJ, whether they're posting him up, whether they're getting him in transition, or that he just takes it and becomes a distributor himself. But just watching basketball, I see a lot of high school basketball because I've got grandkids playing, and basically it's almost like a positionless position. Every kid out there thinks he can handle the ball and can be the point guard. And I've watched, I'm sitting here watching Timberview High School play, and everybody's got the ball in their hands and they're running stuff. And in the summer, it's a little bit different because there's not quite the structure. But I think you ask the majority of high school kids what they want to be. I'm a point guard. That's what I do. And, and obviously good coaching will take away some of that thing, and kids will have to change a little bit because not everybody can be a point guard. Now, is it great when everybody can handle it and distribute it? Yes. But I do still traditionally believe in guys playing that position and everybody else kind of, whatever offensive system they're working. But I like the idea of having a traditional point guard.
Hey, Steve Cleveland. He joins us every week right here on The Zone. Steve, we will talk to you again next week. Enjoy whatever concert you go off to this week.
Thanks, guys.
All
See
right.
you. Bye-bye.
DJ and PK, when we come back, 5-star quarterback. Where are they headed? In this case, where is he headed? Brandon Huffman, national recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports. Oregon, Texas, BYU. What's going to happen? We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
There's problem solvers. I'm not one of them. I'm a problem creator.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, right. I call it challenging groupthink, but really I'm an instigator.
See, I'm more of a problem pointer-outer.
Doing it wrong.
Exactly. Which I'd probably rather be than a problem creator.
Sure, it's better.
But easier than problem solving.
Neither help.
No, nothing.
Neither fix anything.
No. My living is to pop on the microphone and say, hey, that team really stunk out there. Well, how did they make it better? I don't know.
Not my problem.
Don't you get paid to figure that out? Boy, that team stinks. Why do they stink? Well, I could give you a number of different reasons.
How do you fix it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's your problem.
Not up to me.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
I love this job.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Join Hans and Scotty live Friday from noon to 3 at Bar W Beef in Nephi, the new state-of-the-art retail butcher shop supporting Utah farmers and ethical farming practices, all at supermarket prices. That's Bar W Beef, only in Nephi. We're joined now by Brandon Huffman, national recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports. Brandon, good morning.
How you doing, guys?
We are doing well. It's a big week for the Utes and Cougars, bringing in high-profile guys. Let's start with quarterback because it's football and quarterbacks mean so much. Ryder Lyons, a 5-star quarterback. Is he really going to BYU? He's visiting Oregon. He's cut some other people off the list. What do you think of Ryder, and what do you think the odds are he ends up in Provo?
I mean, I've said for 2 years that I think he's the best quarterback in the country. I know he's a top 5 quarterback nationally. He's the number 1 player in California. For my money, I will take him as the best quarterback in the country, and this is big. You know, it was essentially down to BYU, USC, and Oregon. His brother is at USC, and then he was supposed to take a visit there 2 weeks ago, canceled it. And there's talk it may happen in the fall because he's not enrolling until 2027. There's a little bit of flexibility, but I have maintained for a while this was a BYU-Oregon battle, and I have said more than anybody in the media, do not sleep and do not discount BYU's efforts with him. And now they get their shot. They get the last visit, and they got all the big guns visiting this weekend as well. So, you know, this could end up being the most significant recruit Kalani Sitake has ever gotten in his 10 years at BYU. So all eyes are on Provo, not just with BYU fans, but I would say college football fans in general are tracking this one.
If he chooses BYU, why do you think he would choose them?
I think there's a couple reasons at play. He really likes Aaron Roderick. He really likes the direction that BYU is going. I think he is seeing that, you know, after the 2024 season, when they got their feet under themselves and the way that they competed, you know, not just in the Big 12, but, you know, as a nationally ranked team throughout the year, that this is an offense. You know, Kalani's a defensive guy, and that's always a concern when you're a quarterback. If I go play for a defensive guy, is his focus going to be on winning the game with defense, or is he going to open up the offense? And I think this last year with Jake Retzlaff, a quarterback, they showed a penchant to, you know, be exciting on offense. And I think that really answered a lot of questions. And obviously, you know, having a guy like Zach Wilson go number 2 in the draft a few years ago, having a number of quarterbacks in recent years get drafted and get the opportunity in the NFL, that helps. But it's also the direction that the program is trending up on a national scale. And I also think that, you know, given the fact that he is planning to serve a mission for a year, there's complete flexibility and openness from BYU. Oregon and USC are saying the same thing, but obviously BYU has a track record of being open to that and allowing for that and encouraging that. And so I think a lot of factors play into BYU being a very legitimate threat to land him.
Other schools that have been mentioned as finalists here, USC, Michigan, Ohio State, Ole Miss, are any of them really in the mix? Is it just Oregon and BYU? What are the odds they could get back in if they wanted to? What do you think?
Yeah, I think internally it's Oregon or BYU. I do think USC is still somewhat being considered just because of Walker being there. Obviously, Lincoln Riley's track record at quarterback development, quarterback draft picks. I mean, how many number 1 picks, how many Heisman Trophy winners has he developed in his time? USC does have a 2026 quarterback that, you know, that they were able to flip from Oregon, interestingly enough, and that's why Oregon has gone in. But with all these schools, it was a matter of what's their 2027 quarterback situation look like. And Ohio State's the only one that actually had a 2027 quarterback committed. So I think, you know, with an Ole Miss, obviously Lane Kiffin has a nice track record as well. Jackson Dart just became a first-rounder himself. So a lot of these schools have a chance, but I really think internally he has just been focusing on the 3 Western schools and has said for a while that those are the 3 that were for sure getting officials. He was letting Ohio State, Michigan, and Ole Miss make a push, but it really seems like it's been USC, BYU, and Oregon, and now really it seems like it's Oregon and BYU for him.
So much of college football has changed in recent times with the NIL, and then also, too, there's been a little bit of a division between the Big Ten, SEC, and the others. What do you think those things are playing into as far as factors for kids making their decisions?
I think those are something that fans manufacture as their need to kind of create drama from January 20th until kickoff in August. And, fans have way more pride and division and rivalries with the conferences than the players do. I mean, if you need any more proof, then it's a fan-created narrative rather than a player-created narrative. Go look at the transfer portal every December or in April. Guys are leaving big schools to, the SEC and big. Go to the new Pac-12 schools. They don't care. They don't care about, what channel SEC games are all on or what games Big Ten is being played at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. They care about where do I have the best chance to get developed and where's the best NIL deal going to be and where's the best revenue sharing going to be. So I don't think that the conference divisions and, the divisiveness between the conferences is even on the radar for the recruits. It's all about the fans and their athletic directors of those schools who need to cry poverty when they have plenty of millions of dollars in their back pocket. It's something that we need to have for 8 months to keep the college football engagement there. But I don't think recruits give a flying flip about anything related to, you're in the Big Ten, you're in the SEC, you're in the Big 12, you're the ACC. If I can go play and I can get paid, that's where I'm going.
Felix Ojo, 5-star offensive tackle out of Texas, is supposed to be visiting Utah this weekend. Consensus top 10 pick. Great headlines around him. What do you think of him, and what do you think the odds are he ends up with the Utes?
I mean, he's a grown man. I saw him at the All-American Bowl. He was one of the rare juniors that was invited to play in the All-American Bowl back in January in San Antonio. And, when you spend the last 2 months going through mock drafts of the 2026 NFL draft, and you see not one but two potential offensive tackles from the University of Utah being projected as first-round draft picks, that right there is as good of a sales and recruiting pitch that Jim Harding and Kyle Whittingham could give to potential offensive tackle commits. I mean, there's a history of players getting developed at Utah, offensive linemen going early, getting drafted. But now to have two potential tackles being drafted in the first round, that shows you, A, those guys are getting developed, despite the fact that both were pretty elite prospects coming in. But B, what does that also tell me? That there's going to be a potential to play early in 2026 because they lose likely both of their tackles. So you can get a Felix Ojo to come in. And, Utah always gets one or two recruits to come in on a visit that you kind of think. I always go back. Now, granted, he was on the defense side of the ball, but I always remember the Jalen Johnson recruitment 10 years ago. And when you looked at the schools that he was looking at that point and kind of where they were at on the football kind of, pecking order, where Utah was still trying to get their legs under themselves in the Pac-12 at that point, and then Jalen Johnson goes there and flourishes to the point where he's one of the highest paid defensive backs now. They are always good for a recruitment like, why is Utah in it? And then, oh my gosh, Utah's going to land him. So I wouldn't ignore this one at all when you look at the tackle development and the potential for immediate vacancies next year. And, we can talk all we want about Ryder Lyons being a big one, but this is a sneaky big visit that Utah's hosting this weekend.
How much has the transfer portal impacted high school recruiting?
That's a great question because I see it every year. Oh, the portal is killing recruiting. It's not killing recruiting because guess what? You need players to come from somewhere. So those players that have gone into the portal, they played high school football. They got recruited. What it's doing is it's recalibrating the expectations of parents. No longer are you getting the kid who's the 25th player in a class getting an offer from his dream school in January or on the Tuesday before signing day in February. Now that kid's having to make a decision going into his senior year, probably by July or August, and maybe he's going to an FCS school and turning an FCS program almost into a quasi-JUCO program. So it's not affecting it so much that there's still schools that need bodies. It's just kind of recalibrating where players are signing on the front end, and then if those schools can maintain and retain those players over the course of those few years. But what the biggest thing is you're seeing classes being sewn up by probably mid-July, and I would say 90 to 95% of a recruiting class that won't sign until December is going to be locked in by July. And, it's almost like the senior year evaluation doesn't matter anymore for the Power 4 schools or even for some Group of 5 schools. And the calendar has moved the goalposts a little sooner. So players aren't getting chances to be that 25th guy that develops for 3 years. Now it's like, hey, I'm going to go play at an FCS school, get some film, and then, remarket myself in 2 years in the portal and potentially get a big payday.
Coaches may not stay put long enough for this to work, but it does seem in the same way that Utah, BYU, Oregon, USC, whoever can develop guys for the NFL. It does seem like they're MAC schools, FCS schools that the pitch could be, hey, come here, and in 2 years you will be playing in a power league, in a brand name school. You can't play right away there, but you can play right away here. Now, do coaches stay put long enough for that pitch to work, or coaches interested in making that work?
Jason Eck is the new head coach at New Mexico, and he was at Idaho for the previous 3 years. And he said last summer, and it was pretty enlightening, he said when they were recruiting players to Idaho, they did it with essentially the pitch of, hey, if you come here for 2 years, 3 years, do what we think you're capable of doing, by all means, go into the portal. Because if that means that you did what we expect you to do and your talent gets you on the field and gets you that film rather than going sitting on the bench, that's going to be better for you, but that also means that's good for our program, and we're going to have an opportunity in the playoffs. And Idaho went to the playoffs for 3 straight years. Jason Eck gets hired at a Mountain West school, and he parlayed, the success of those really good recruits that came there into turning around the Idaho program and a better job for him. I think Idaho had something like 15 players go into the portal upon Eck's departure and move up to FBS. So schools are not only, kind of recruiting that, but those coaches are almost using that to their own advantage where, hey, we're winning now. I'm developing these players. I'm signing these players. Now, if I'm a position coach at a school, I might get a better FBS job than an FCS school, or I might be a head coach at an FCS school, and now I might be an FBS head coach in 2 or 3 years because of the players that I brought, and I'm going to bring a dozen of those players. We saw it with Stanford. Really, we saw it with Sacramento State when Troy Taylor was the head coach there. He parlayed that to the Stanford job, and then a bunch of his players ended up going to the portal. And Cam Scatterbo ended up being a star for Arizona State when he was a no-name recruit that Troy Taylor recruited for Sacramento State. So these schools are using it, especially the FCS schools and the lower G5 schools. They're using it to their advantage for a quick fix of making their program better, but also these coaches are using this as a resume builder.
Who's tearing it up and recruiting in the Big 12 then?
I would say Arizona State, and this is the thing where I've said this for years. You don't necessarily, and especially with the calendar being like it is, you don't see the bump in a successful turnaround season in that ensuing class. You see it in the following year when you now have the entire offseason to really market yourself. And Arizona State has a top 15 class right now. I think it's a top 2 class in the Big 12. They're still getting traction with some in-state kids, but Arizona State is now being looked at by kids in Texas, by kids in California. A lot of the kids outside of Arizona are wanting in at Arizona State. And then, we're used to this for basketball, but Kansas surprisingly has done well in football recruiting. And it's credit to Lance Leipold, who's done a really good job. But everybody takes a back seat to the deepest wallets, it seems like, this last offseason. And you can't mess with oil money. And apparently Texas Tech is just throwing money out to anybody. I mean, I don't even have kids that play sports, but I'll make one right now that'll play sports. If you want to pay him $5 million to come be a pitcher on the softball team, and it worked. I mean, they got to the national championship game in softball. They got arguably the biggest pass rusher that went into the April portal in David Bailey away from Stanford. So at the end of the day, where I said, where it's Big Ten, ACC, SEC, nobody cares about the division. It's who's got the deepest wallets. And right now, Texas Tech doesn't seem to have any kind of depth to their wallet. It's like an endless stream of money.
There's supposed to be a limit on NIL money, and they're going to have these realistic deals. You're out there in the world of recruiting. Do you think there's any chance that happens? It either there's a court challenge and that stuff's just all blown away and we just stay in the Wild West, or it goes underground, sort of, the way it has been for decades until NIL opened it up. Aren't those the two options?
Yeah, I mean, I miss the phrase the bagman because everything is out there right now. I mean, bring back the innocent days of college football with the bagman and duffel bags of cash. Except now, they're prepaid Visa check cards, and that's what the money is. But no, I think we're in a litigant society that all they're going to do is just keep suing. And what we're seeing is the NCAA is taking loss after loss in court. And so as long as you got lawsuits, you have to keep paying for the legal counsel. You might as well just throw your hands up and just say, you know what, NIL go is not working. I mean, who comes up with the arbitrary number of $600? And those are the deals. Now, the reality is everybody thinks every kid is getting paid billions of dollars, not millions of dollars to go there. The reality is, even with revenue sharing, it's still going to the top 1% to 5%, just like the NFL. You have minimum contracts in the NFL, the veteran contracts, the rookie contracts. But the elite players are controlling the large amount of the salary cap numbers, and that's going to be the same in college. So you're going to have schools that are going to be like, hey, from a revenue sharing standpoint, we've got to give our quarterback and our left tackle more money, but you also need 22 guys, 22 starters, 85 guys, or I guess 105 guys now on the roster to compete. So you're going to have some sweetheart backyard or backdoor deals to keep those other players who will get unhappy when I'm the one catching on these passes from the quarterback. Why is he making so much more money than I am?
Okay, so we understand how Texas Tech would be doing it. You just said about the oil money, but then you lavish praise on the Sun Devils, and I'm a Sun Devil alum, so that's great to hear. But I'm wondering, how are they doing it then if they don't have that type of money?
Well, that's the thing with ASU is that they're doing it, but if you notice, they're not really getting star power. So there is still going to be a place in college football for really well-coached teams with a lot of culture, with a good camaraderie, good chemistry to be competitive. Are they going to win the national championship? Probably not. You know, is a Boise State going to win a national championship? Probably not. They spent, I think, 80% of their NIL money went to keeping Ashton Genty last year. But if you have a culture and one or two star players that are willing to say, hey, I'll get it on the back end, whether it's being developed into a first-round draft pick, I'll win that way. And, you know, now that everybody's going to have the $15 to $20 million to share in revenue from the media rights deals, that's how they're doing it. When you sell Tempe, Arizona, and I get that. My son goes to Arizona State. I can understand why that's appealing and attractive. Lubbock's going to catch some strays here. So if you're Lubbock, what are you going to do to entice these kids to come to Lubbock, Texas, that went to modern-day high school and just spent 3 years getting their degree at Stanford? You're going to sell them on what we can put in your wallet rather than, you know, the beautiful country scene that Lubbock has. And with all due respect to Texas Tech, you know, you've got to have incentives. And so I think there are some schools where I'm getting developed. We talked about it for years with the Alabama, quote-unquote, Alabama discount under Nick Saban. Guys would take less money because they knew if they got developed by Nick Saban, there's a good chance they're sitting in the green room come April. And I think with some schools, there's like, hey, you know, come here. We're a pro-style program. We're going to get you developed. We're going to get you drafted. You know, play the long game, not the short game. And when you get those players, there still are plenty of guys that just want to play college football because they love college football. If you can get a little bit of extra scratch, all the better. But the goal is the NFL. So I want to go somewhere I could potentially win rather than pull a Florida State where it's all about money and you go 2-10 a year after you thought you should have been in the playoff.
We'll leave it right there for now, Brandon. We appreciate your time, your perspective, your knowledge on all things recruiting. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Brandon Huffman, National Recruiting Editor for 24/7 Sports. Lubbock, Texas, catching strays. Well, we can put stuff in your wallet.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation there. I mean, obviously Tempe is going to be more attractive than Lubbock, but the cash is going to be more attractive in Lubbock than what you can get in Tempe, to use the two examples that he brought up. And so what do
that
you
just
do
plays
there?
out over and over.
Yeah. It's an individual decision. You know, do you go for bottom dollar, top dollar, I should say, the complete bottom line, or do you look at other things to go that way? And then, you know, in football is so funky too with this star system. I think basketball, DeBonsa, he's a 5-star, and he'll be a 5-star. But in football, you can just cite a never-ending list of examples of 1, 2, 0 stars, whatever, and then they blow up because they just burn with all the stuff that you need to be good at that sport. And Whittingham has made literally millions off of that, and Ute fans have gone to Rose Bowls off of that, and Sugar Bowls and Fiesta, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just not as clear cut. And so that actually, I think, is what the fans want to hear. You have what it takes, no matter what your dumb star system is. And in football, we see that time and time and time again.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Joining us on the program right now, John Wilner, college football writer for Mercury News.
What are some of the issues and concerns about that 5+11 model that gives a lot of people pause?
Well, I think that it gives the selection committee an immense amount of power. They're picking 11 spots. There are a lot of reasons to be wary of the selection committee. I mean, your state is one of the big ones, right? Because I think BYU got totally hosed. That is a sentiment a lot of people feel could get repeated seeded every year if the committee is allowed to pick most of the field. One corner is distrust of the selection committee. Another corner is the need for more money because of revenue sharing. And the third corner is that ESPN isn't on the hook to pay more if they expand the playoff. So they can't just get more money by expanding the playoff.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Gather around, all you people who are interested in making money, because I'm going to be making money for you. I'm going to do it right now. All you got to do, text PK to 57500. If you're passionate about your business and you want it to reach levels that are unprecedented, why not get with me? Come on, man. I want to endorse your product. Text PK 57500. Sales staff will be in touch, and you and I, we will make beautiful music together. Steve Cleveland thought Earth, Wind & Fire was good. You should see and listen to me and you once we get together. Oh, my goodness gracious. Look out, Kendrick Lamar, Duckwork, and everybody else. We will rock of that, I can promise. What's the text? Let me tell you one more time. Text PK to 57500. Come on, let's do it.
It's exactly what Jalen Williams probably said when he left that locker room.
I got to text PK. Oh.
40 points. We were talking yesterday about his scoring total keeps increasing every game, and sure enough, he cranked it up again. He's 24 years old and figuring it out. 14 of 25 shooting in the biggest game of the year to date. And he delivers.
Good for him.
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was also very good. 31 points, 10 assists.
Well, he's a consistent player.
Batman and Robin came through with the big game. Yeah. So Oklahoma City now one win away from the title. And the games that they'd won, the two previous games, Caruso had given them 20 points. He didn't really get it going, but Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace were good, so they had enough from the bench.
Yeah, but you get it going. I mean, he can contribute in many other different ways.
He does. Tons of energy and all the turnovers they forced. He was a big part of that. He had 4 steals.
This is the best thing right now for Jazz fans to have Oklahoma City win it and have, what was SGA? What pick did he go?
11, I think.
And so Jalen Williams went 12. So you got an 11, 12. Yeah, you got a second pick in the draft, and Chet Holmgren, and I think certainly Holmgren, his best days are to come. No doubt about it. He's still a youngster. But you've got these guys here that are an 11 and a 12 pick. You've got a 5 and a 21. So 11 and 12 and 5 and 21, that is 26 and 22? What's 11 plus 12?
You messed that up on purpose.
No, I didn't.
23.
23. So, yeah, that's right there. That's why in 8 days, the future of the Jazz will be a lot brighter. I mean, look at this, man. Used to be, number 1 pick, number 2 pick, maybe Jordan, number 3. The only reason why he went number 3 because guys were dumb. And, obviously he should have been number 1, no matter. Even though Olajuwon had a very nice career, but he still should have been below Jordan. And so, yeah, if you get lucky in the draft, and the Spurs did that a couple times, blah, 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 won titles and all that stuff. But, I mean, you look at these two, they're not complimentary players. They're the best players. And I think that's a great opportunity. This is how you do it, man.
Holmgren's the only top 10 pick in either starting lineup, right? The Pacers, they got guys coming off the bench who are top 10 picks, but their starters, they're all coming later too. So there's talent everywhere. If you get the right guy, you're golden.
Right. And that's your job, whoever you are, throughout these teams as we prepare for the draft here a week from tomorrow. And the Jazz really have an opportunity to cash in and do some good things and take another huge step, not a small step. I'm done with small steps. I got to take where you're striding out and take a big step to get this thing going back where it needs to be.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We had Brandon Huffman on earlier this morning, national recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports. The Utes have a top 10 offensive lineman visiting, a 5-star quarterback visiting at BYU. And this is some of the things he said caught your attention, got you focused in this new era.
Yeah, we've heard so much about the money, and Kyle has said, the top 25 are going to reflect the top 25 NILs. And I think it's important, but he also talks about, he uses the Devils as an example. The money isn't there in top 25, but, they're having good camaraderie. It's a young coach, a lot of enthusiasm, development, blah, blah, blah. We look what we did with this running back, came out of nowhere, and make him a draft pick, and this quarterback in his first year. Now they're talking about him being a Heisman guy. And I think it's great that kids and their parents or whoever's involved, they look at everything. Just simply don't take the actual whoever pays me the most. That's great, and that's important, but there's other factors into it. And I think that bodes well for our schools here in state, because they have different things. BYU, they have the religious angle that they can sell, but I think they've gone beyond that because they're getting talent that normally wouldn't. We would look to that. Now this Ryder Lyons kid is a Latter-day Saint, so that fits in well. But I also don't think that you should come to BYU to play football just because you're an LDS kid and that's an LDS school. You're going to play football. How will you be developed? And if you are a high school kid of note, yeah, you should think about the NFL if that's what you're thinking about, if that's what you want. Some may not want it, but if that's what you want, and if you are this highly touted, where can I go where they can develop me and put me in that position to be drafted a la a Zach Wilson, whoever it might be. And then it's up to you when you get to the NFL. I mean, they can't control that. And Zach Wilson still is in the NFL for that matter. He's not out of the league. He hasn't starred, but he's still in the league. And so that stuff is important. In Utah, they have a lot of stuff to offer too that goes beyond the dollars. I think, and obviously you would speak to this here when I'm done talking, that we're fine with everybody receiving some financial compensation. We just don't want it to be the overriding factor in all decisions, because then it doesn't come down to all these other things that matter in life. It's just a dollar figure. And so, yeah, get them paid, but then have them want to make decisions that go beyond simply the most amount of money.
I get all of that, but if someone offers you an overwhelming amount of money, you're probably going to take it. I mean,
what is an overwhelming amount of money compared to what you were used to, what the other schools are offering?
That is different for every person. There's no question about that. People are in different situations.
And great. Go ahead and do that. But that doesn't mean I can't get other kids a scataboo who wasn't going to get all that develop him, and then I beat you.
Football talent scouting is imperfect because you don't play enough games. There isn't enough sample size for anyone to know. The best recruiters acknowledge that they're going to miss a third to a half the time. With the transfers, maybe you cut down on that a little bit, but you do lose something when the roster is all about the money. And Kalani talked about this in the beginning when they didn't have all the money, and it didn't look like they were going to pay all the money, and they turned down a truck deal. It's a very different time now. It wasn't that long ago. And his point was, if you're all about the money, how much time you spend working at football? If you don't work at football, you don't get better, and then the team gets beat and the coach gets fired. So no coach is going to sign off on that.
Right.
So, but there's always going to be a team on the outside that wants to be on the inside that comes into money. And you can go through every decade of college football. Texas Tech is the latest.
Go ahead, fine.
I do think that the other stuff matters because there's a market, and we see it in our businesses. We see it in radio and TV, and other people see it out there in whatever their business is, that the people hiring know the market for whatever the industry is. This is what you pay for this job. This is what you pay for that job. And so the salaries don't necessarily get that far out of line. So it does come down to other stuff. It does come down to relationships and your confidence in leadership.
Yeah.
Which, at a radio station, that's one thing, right? But is it really that different? I mean, it's talking about in football, I believe in this coach. You're talking about confidence in leadership. Is this going to be well run?
Texas Tech can have all the money that they want.
Right.
But that doesn't mean your school, our schools here in town, and then the rest of the schools in the community in the conference can't compete and beat Texas Tech. Now, they did it in softball, but that's a different story. They bring the gal over from Stanford.
And pitching's so important.
And they can throw her 100 times in a row.
Right.
You don't need 4 or 5.
It's an underhand motion, not overhand, which makes it really different from baseball, which is the most logical comparison.
And good for them. They got to the final, and maybe they end up just dominating softball left and right. We'll see how it goes. But I just don't know that that's in football. And one player is a great player to have, but you need a whole slew of them.
And most people don't have the pocket, so I do think that the money will be about the same for a lot of players at a lot of positions, and then they will ultimately have to pick based on all the stuff they've traditionally picked on. Who can get to the NFL? This coach runs a system that's going to highlight my talents.
That's what we want.
As recently as yesterday.
We want that as fans.
Right.
We don't want to just see, you paid the most, so you won.
Right.
That's not competition.
There was a time in the history of Major League Baseball where that happened, and it frustrated people, and there was a great outcry. But then again, 5-6 years past it, and people spent money on the wrong people, and a team with less money figured out a way, if not to win it, to at least get really close. A couple teams definitely mastered the art of the tear down and build up with the young guys. That's how Kansas City did it, and that's how Houston did it. So over time, people found other paths.
Yeah.
So even if you hit that stretch where it just seems like it's all about the money, take a breath. In a couple years, people will try to figure out another path forward.
And then in football, they don't necessarily live up to it. I mean, there's a kid from Southern California, Malachi. He was all that in a bag of chips,
and
he goes to SC.
3 schools.
And then our kid here at American Fork, Manson, who's 5'10", goes to Boise and beats him out.
Baby.
Yeah, beats him out.
And now Malachi Nelson is at, wait for it,
right,
UTEP.
Yeah, right. And he's down there in the hotbed of quarterbacking in the L.A. area, just south of that. Goes, and we see that. They just flood to SC, but only one guy can play. And they all, SC, have they never not had a 4 or 5 star at quarterback, it seems, in the last 25 years. And they're all coming up the freeway, and they go there, and most of them are busts when you think about it.
It's true.
Yeah. And then they go, and he goes to Boise, and the little dude out of American Fork, right? Manson beats him out. Our guy beats him out, and he's shorter than I am.
Yes.
And he's winning games, and he's getting into the playoff. So that's the cool thing. I think that's what we want as fans of the game. We don't want it to just be a money-oriented result. We want, let's see, Texas has all the money in the world, right? The Devils take them to overtime. And in a game that will live on, one of these few games where the losing team, that was an awesome game. And it was. And this team that had just won, they won 3 games the year before. They're on the verge of beating Texas.
We need to compile a list. What's the top 10 games that the losing team really enjoyed?
Well,
for the losing fan base.
Yeah, it's the Rose Bowl.
For the Utes, it's the Rose Bowl. For ASU,
the first time.
Yeah, the first one against Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And then the ASU, the playoff game.
Yeah, that was a great game. Everybody acknowledges, wow, what a game. I mean, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. Yeah. That's the way it works.
One thing that the schools with all the money have going against them is, yes, kids want the money, but how many kids are willing to pass on the playing time? Now, you have a story that, some kids will pass on the playing time for the money, because you did the story of the kid who went across the country and he was what was the term? Banjo? No, slap.
Oh, Punch and Judy.
Punch and Judy, yeah. Punch and Judy, yeah, just slapped the ball to the opposite field. And he gets $250,000. Okay, that kid didn't value playing, but other kids do. Jackson Dart was another highly thought of quarterback at USC. And then they got a coaching change, and they got a guy coming in, and he's not going to play, so he leaves. Ole Miss is hardly a football power, but he went there.
Yeah, but Lane Kiffin is a football power.
But see, that goes back to the leadership, the coaching. Oh, this coach, he knows his stuff. I'm going to this school. And he didn't go to Alabama, LSU, USC,
well, you gotta
Oregon,
have an
Ohio
opening,
State,
though.
Penn State. You do. People. That's the point. People want to play.
Yeah.
And so you got to figure out what you have if you don't have the most money and pitch that.
And maybe it can't be done at the absolute highest level, meaning you won't make the final 2 or the final 4. But you could have really good times along that line. If the Sun Devils rolled out an 11-3 season for the rest of my life and lost in some playoff, I'd sign up right now.
You're pretty happy, right?
Yeah. For where they are on the pecking order, because they're not that high.
So Kyle's told us a lot of things that are true, but nobody's right every time, all the time. So if he's wrong about the top 25, are going to parallel, he said the top 25 in money are going to parallel the top 25 in the poll. And he has said that multiple times in multiple situations. If he's wrong, I don't think he's going to be wrong at the top, which is what you just alluded to.
No, I don't think he's going to be wrong at the top. I'm not sure he's going to be wrong at all, because I think there'll be a great differential between 1 and 2 and 24 and 25.
Wait, say that again?
1 and 2 are going to be paying enormous money.
Oh, and okay, I thought you meant the year.
25.
Yes, I thought
you're ranked, but it's an enormous gap between the two of you.
I think that's that.
So he can be right.
That's how the numbers lie. And they lie. That's how they lie in preseason polls. Mm-hmm. Oh, you were picked first, you're picked 7th. There's a big gap. In the Big 12 last year, that gap was 1 game between 1st and 7th, the top 7 teams. So you do have to be careful with these lists. That there are gaps between numbers, sometimes that are way bigger than you think, and sometimes there's barely a gap at all. So I think you can move inside that money list a little bit. The other thing we haven't talked about is injuries. Sometimes you can buy depth, but sometimes you can't. You have talent, but you don't have experience. So the money will get you to the ballpark, and then you find a little wiggle room after that to make yourself better.
I think what you need is you can't tell kids, I need you to make a major financial sacrifice.
Well, you got to be in the ballpark. The team that has the 7th biggest payroll can win the title. The team that has the 17th best, I'm not convinced they can.
And that's an individual thing. We talked about
major. Yeah.
Who's the tight end? Kincaid.
Oh, Kincaid.
For Alabama. He sacrificed by not going to Alabama to take the money. He stayed here at Utah. Mm-hmm. But he comes from a 2-parent home that apparently is fair, as I understood it. He wasn't necessarily making a financial sacrifice because he was still living a good life. Now, he didn't take as much money.
He didn't take the most money.
There's two different things. Just because you don't take as much money does not mean you're making a financial sacrifice.
He didn't take the most money, the $1 million, but he also didn't make zero at Utah.
And his life is his
life
family.
Is already, right. Now, here's the other thing. Timing matters. If Alabama had made that offer when he was leaving USD, maybe
they don't make that offer because he didn't have any stature when he was leaving.
But maybe they could have figured out who's a good player, or they're just buying finished products.
Yeah, they don't need to do that.
They're not going to go buy the plant at Home Depot or the nursery or whatever and plant it and grow the tomatoes. They just go into the grocery store and pick.
Particularly if they've got a
tomatoes. Need. Yeah.
They can. Yeah, they obviously had a need at tight end.
For whatever reason,
they were a little
out
short at that position.
They had an NFL guy and they wanted another one. It's just stacking first-round draft picks. Here we go.
But I think that we'll continue to see that. So,
but see, that's where the
my
leverage
opinion is it's not at all hopeless.
Exactly, and that's where the playing time thing can factor in. And who are you playing for?
And your situation, you're with your guys, and this is what you poured your heart and soul into, and you like the team, you like the guys, and maybe you got a girlfriend there, whatever it might be.
And so you don't leave for a 10% raise, but you would leave for a 25 or 50% raise. The money's got to be in the ballpark.
And
everybody defines the ballpark
depending
differently.
on what your situation is.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that that's the case, and college football won't simply be money. Because even at the NFL, it's not that. And that's what we want. That's one of the reasons why the NFL is exciting, is because your team has a shot. Buffalo is not a huge market, but they draft Josh Allen and then do some other good stuff. And they haven't gotten to the top, I understand it, but nevertheless, they've been competitive for many seasons now, and it looks like they will continue to be competitive for what? The next 4 or 5 years at least?
Josh Allen's playoff record, I've seen it separated out home and away, and I've seen it separated out for each round. This is what he does in wild card games. This is what he does in AFC title games. You really need to separate out what he does against the Chiefs and what he does against everybody else. That's the line for that guy.
Yeah. I mean, right now the Bills are the late 80s and 90s Jazz.
Yeah.
Really good.
They're really good.
Great runs. You didn't quite get over the top, but man, you had some, and there's something to be said for that, man. And it's the city of Buffalo, where in October you got 3 feet of snow, and so what? It's not a glamour market, and yet they're really good. That's what we want. That's what we want in college football. We don't want it to just be so much money driven, because then it gets boring. You start to get to the middle of October, and I've sort of tuned out game day, because it seems like they're just talking about the same 4 or 5 teams all the time.
You don't have to convince me. I tuned it out before you.
You did. But I was in hotels and stuff, and
that matters.
And I don't have places to go when I'm traveling, and that's one thing you did. And so, but I've gotten away from it. I want to see more stories. I want to see more teams. Colorado was fun this year. I went over there when they played the Utes, and they had the Fox thing. And I'd been over in that campus on senior day, and you would have thought school was not in session.
It was dead. Yes.
It's like the day after Christmas. And then to go over there this year and to see all the excitement and all the energy, that was fun for those folks. That's what I want to see. If you do things right, like the Utes have done for many years, you should be able to be rewarded. And we'll see how BYU goes and if they can sustain the success that they've had.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Everything you missed in this show will get you up to speed next. Shohei's back on the hill. That and the NBA Finals, Game 5 to the Thunder. Stay with us.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
9 a.m. Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. So many things happened today, PK. We talked baseball earlier today. We didn't mention College World Series. They had a no-no.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Kid for Arkansas threw the third no-hitter in College World Series history.
Yeah, and then one of his buddies was on the other team, LSU, was it? And then goes over and gives him a big hug after the game.
Elimination game, Arkansas knocking out LSU.
Yeah, and then UCLA had a big rain. That always happens there. It seems like every year.
Thunderstorms come in, rain delay. They got to finish that game today to find out who Arkansas plays next. That's a winner's bracket game.
Uh-huh.
Whoever wins that is one win away from the final series.
Yeah.
Shohei's back on the hill, throwing 100 miles an hour and 17 pitches over 95 miles an hour.
Gas.
Figure he's a scratch golfer, and he runs when he puts
like
a
Bo
ball.
Jackson.
Yeah, when he puts a ball in the gap, he is on second base very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think a guy that big would move
He's
that
not
well.
a sprinter. He doesn't have a sprinter's body.
No, he's just not. But neither did Bo Jackson, right?
Right.
All they do is get from point A to point B really fast.
Yeah. I
mean, you look at Ellie De La Cruz, like that's a sprinter's body.
Yeah, he's got legs that won't quit.
Yeah.
and those strides.
And that's why when the ball goes in the gap, he's on third base before you bat an eye.
Yeah. We'll see what he does, if he could sustain a several-year pitching career. I'm not so sure. I get he throws super hard, but you gotta do more than that. These guys are used to having pitchers throw super hard. I mean, Randy Johnson, for all his heat, it was that slider, and of course he had that stride that looked like he was right in your face by the time he released the ball. So, but I mean, Shohei he's an international story, unlike anything that we have ever seen in terms of just capturing the imagination of two countries.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And yet, here he is.
Right? For sure. He's a guy who lived up to the hype. I remember reading about him when he was over there.
Yeah.
And he was 16, 17 years old. He's fulfilled that.
He's 30 now. I don't know, do they think the Dodgers are talking internally about how do we extend his career, or they're spending so much money as how do we win a World Series this year and we'll worry about everything else later? I mean, there was the whole he'll be back in July, and now here it is June, and he's back.
But I mean, I think, we would say he won't be back in July. I mean, he won't be back until July. He's not back now. We wouldn't say this if he went out to San Bernardino and pitched in the single A.
Mm-hmm.
But because of his bat, they're not going to send him away.
They are not.
The rehabs are going to be right before our eyes.
He puts butts in seats so you don't send him away. And then he steps into the batter's box, and he drives in a run in the third inning, and he drives in a run in they had a big fourth inning to win the game. They scored 5 times. And he drives in. He didn't even hit a home run. But it doesn't matter because he's Shohei Ohtani, and it's 2 hits.
Right. They can't afford team-wise.
There's literally no one who would do that.
Yeah. So I think it's misleading to say he's back. They're still targeting that same timeline for back. And I don't think
until he throws 5 innings, he's not back? 5 innings being what starters do these days.
Yes.
They don't even really do 6 anymore.
I don't think we'll see that until minimally the end of July. And then the idea, clearly, is to have him ready in October.
Yes.
And how about Kershaw, man? He shut out the Giants for 6-7 innings the other day. The old man getting it done.
In the regular season. Do you trust him in the playoffs? There've just been so many bad outings.
There has been, but I mean, there's been a couple of good ones too. It's not been exclusively bad.
He's still a good story regardless. Yes, there have been some good ones. You're right. And the thing these days is it seems like you have to have 8 starting pitchers so the 5 of them can be healthy. I mean, you want to complain about your team being down a couple of starting pitchers, but as soon as you do, whoever you're talking to is like, yeah, well, my team's down, and they got a couple of pitchers who are down. It's the attrition is just over the top these days.
Yeah, I was listening to somebody saying they just throw too hard, too much.
Throw too hard, too much, and too much breaking stuff thrown really hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, just they were throwing the fastball, that maybe the arm could endure that, but the sliders and curves.
Yeah, and your body's not built for that.
Nope, no one's is, which is why so many guys are going down. Shohei, for all his pitching prowess, has had, I think, 3 seasons where he's thrown 100 innings. He's gotten to 130.
Yeah, I always see him, my own vision of him, as a part-time pitcher.
Yeah, agreed. But if he's really good in the part-time, and if you build a roster that you know is going to get you to the postseason one way or another, which the Dodgers
he'll
ought
never
to do.
I think it would be foolish to have him be a workhorse.
Yeah. Doesn't see he's 30 and he's never been that. I don't see why that would start now. Spent a lot of time this morning talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are now 1 game away from what seems like an inevitable NBA Finals victory. They lead the series for the first time in Game 5. But here they are, up 3-2. So 3 things that really went well for them last night. Jalen Williams, 40 points. We were talking about him yesterday. Can he step it up again? He's getting better and better as the series goes along, and that was his career playoff high, 40. He'd never done that. He had a 34-point game earlier in this playoff run. Not in this series, but in this playoff run. So that's one thing. I mean, he was awesome, and they weren't just empty points. I mean, they're big points and game-changing, momentum-changing shots that leads down to 2, and he had a big 3. The turnovers, I thought, were huge, 23 of them. Only 11 for the Thunder, but 23 for the Pacers. They were just giving the ball away.
Well, it was all in that bunch after they made a great comeback.
Really racked them up there.
Yeah.
That was
tidal wave, and they couldn't get out of it.
And sometimes, not all, as Locke will tell us, not all turnovers are created equal. Those turnovers.
It was like a Groundhog Day.
Yeah. 23 turnovers led to 32 points, whereas 11 turnovers for the Thunder led to 9. So you're looking at a 23-point swing in points off turnovers and an 11-point game.
Right.
And then the third thing is Halliburton, admire the guts, but at some point are you hurting your team even if you're trying to gut it out? And the 4 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He did not make a basket. All his points were at the free throw line. I think we're into you're not helping your team territory, but
well, they can't win if he does that again. The series end season.
And then there's an argument that they can't do it without him, which is why he's on the court.
Well, they were without him.
Yeah,
that was not Tyrese Halliburton.
That's not Tyrese. Who are you and what have you done with Tyrese Halliburton?
He was hurt.
Yep. He left with the calf all wrapped up and went back to the locker room and came back. He still played 34 minutes.
But he wasn't effective at all.
Not at all. So I think those 3 things really, really shaped the game. I don't know if you saw something else you want to shout out in that mix. I mean, I just take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 31-10 for granted. I just blew right through that.
He is a quiet, in all ways, superstar. As Barry Trammell told us from Oklahoma, he married his high school sweetheart. He goes back to Canada and hangs with his friends in the summer. That it really is a too good to be true. And hopefully the last part, to be true, does not factor in. And it doesn't look like there's going to be things that are going to derail him. It looks like this kid, head is on straight. And if you're Oklahoma City, you're like, man, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
What are you going to get, 3, 4?
It seems totally plausible.
Not 1, not 2.
Seems totally plausible. They have a 3-year window here. This is the first year. And after that, the money is going to force big decisions. Now they've got draft picks, and maybe they can bring in some more guys who are inexpensive, but they're not going to be able to keep this group together. But they can't keep this group together much past the summer of 27.
Well, you're assuming that guys are just going to leave.
I am.
Well, I'm not.
The money's good, and the money will be big somewhere. Man, if they find a way to keep them all together, then look out. But they can lose guys and still add guys.
What they've done is a tremendous job of getting a bench on the cheap and having them make valuable contributions.
In some case, starters on the cheap, too.
Well, yeah, you're always going to have that. But
Dort, undrafted.
Well, right, I understand that. And Hartenstein, I'm sure, is not making big money.
Second-round pick, who they acquired.
But you need those bench guys.
Mm-hmm, you do. I mean, we've seen that. There are multiple teams this year that had stars, and we all know when the Joker sat down, Denver's numbers were terrible. They didn't have the bench.
I mean, I'm not nearly as good without you guys as my supporting cast.
That a kid, MJ. Way to go.
Right.
Drop a big old supporting cast.
Right. You guys, and
Yak, you were looking down. You were doing something else.
You're not making as much money as me, but I don't flaunt it. I value your contribution.
Oh, boy.
As long as I can be Luke Longley, we're good.
I value your contributions,
nice,
man.
Yak. Very nice.
Yeah.
Luke Longley.
And you can be your Cliff Livingston who played in San Diego. So there you go. That's your territorial NBA draft pick.
My territorial NBA draft pick. That's my territory, man. He was the next high school over from where I was in elementary school. 3 miles away.
The next high school over when you're in elementary school.
Yeah, by the time I got to high school, he was like 4 high schools over because we moved. We moved a little further away from there.
Yeah. I thought you were boys with him the whole time.
No chance. I
thought you were going down to Balboa Park hooping.
Well, we were.
With Cliff.
Yes.
I thought you called him Cliffy.
No. Nobody called him. I'll guarantee you nobody called him Cliffy.
Cliffy.
People called him the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah,
That's the guy.
I thought you were like Cliffy, like you and Romy.
He's 2 years. No. Cliff's 2 years older than me and was a foot taller than me and 100 pounds heavier than me.
But you're you.
And he was a star, yeah. And I doubled down. I didn't guard. I doubled down from the wing, and he didn't even notice. Oh, there's another guy here. I didn't notice.
Yeah,
I'm
but
busy
that's
scoring.
during the structured. I thought the unstructured on the blacktops, man. You guys were hooping.
No.
Send me a screen, Cliff.
Nope.
Yeah, maybe I'll pass it to you on a pick and pop.
Nice.
I called up basketball jargon. I got it on my computer.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about that we hit on today? Steve Cleveland talking music today. You were right about Liverpool. He does have all the Beatles photos.
I thought that he had told me way back when, because he and I go back, over 25
walked across
years
the crosswalk at Abbey Road there. So
he didn't do that, or maybe he didn't. I don't know. Maybe he did do that. I don't know.
I thought when I brought that up, he said, "I've got all that. I've done all that."
Walk across a crosswalk? That just seems so benign.
I know, but that's the album cover photo. It's a famous photo. Lots of people do it.
But I wouldn't take my shoes off.
I agree with that. I probably
A
won't.
blacktop?
No.
Especially my feet. Bad.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere. Business folks, man, I want to help you. I want to endorse your product. Let's go. Here's what I need you to do. Text PK to 57500. Our sales staff will be in touch, and you and I will get together. I will endorse your product. Come on now. Let's get this thing done. Let's make you some money. Text PK to 57500.
DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback. What do you think about today's show?
No, I thought it was brilliant.
Why would five-star quarterback Ryder Lyons choose BYU? A lot of people think the money.
God told him to.
Doesn't anybody said that?
No, I'm telling him.
Then it's money and playing time. Tony says money and a starting job next season.
Well, he's going to go on a mission, so
that's not next season.
Not going to happen.
That's
his next season.
27 at the earliest.
Yeah. So that really eliminates anybody. You can go to any school that has their Arch Manning.
That's how most programs are looking at him as the 2027 recruit.
Yeah, that would be interesting because they're really high on Bear Buckmeyer.
And so Enoch Watson, who's coming home off of a mission.
Enoch Watson, he coming home off a mission. How long is he serving?
He did the full 2 years.
Oh, well, good for him. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to have competition no matter where you go. Do you really want to go somewhere where there's zero competition? That's not real life. So.
I think that the thing most players run up against is there real competition, or are they telling me that and they've already picked the other guy and I'm being played for the fool?
Oh, not a five-star kid. No, I don't think so. You'll have an opportunity
to compete.
The second you show up on campus, whether it's next year, the year after, whenever your mission's done, blah, 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 you will have that opportunity. They want that. They want competition. That football is, you got to be motivated when no one's watching.
We also talked with Brandon Huffman about national recruiting, and we talked about, five-star quarterback, where's he going to land? We also talked about top 10 linemen. Now, Ojo or Ojo? Is the J pronounced like in Spanish?
Well, it's what we heard from Brandon Huffman was Ojo.
Right, but I don't know how good his Spanish is.
Well, Brandon covers this for a living.
Spanish.
How good is Spanish?
Well,
Brandon covers this for a living. I think I would go with his pronunciation.
He's probably talked to him and got the kids.
Well, he said he saw him at that All-American game and probably interviewed him there.
Half-share Coog says Ojo will not choose the Utes. Texas is the team to beat. Ojo to Texas, so we're not going to have to say his name anyway.
Well, we'll
According
see.
to Half-share Coog.
Cougar fan talking about Utah recruits.
Utes are known for offensive linemen, so he's smart to check them out.
He is.
Intently.
But a kid from Texas going to Texas
He's
wouldn't
from
be surprising.
Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe so. We'll see.
He's a kid from the state of Texas. Now, Utah got in the mix very late on him, and he just added this offer in the last couple of weeks. So that's good news for Utah.
I mean, Huffman explained the logic, and it's pretty spot on. And it's sending multiple tackles to the draft.
And he canceled a visit to Oklahoma to come to Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a wreck. Don't mess with Oklahoma. I know the expression is don't mess with Texas, but don't mess with Oklahoma.
Don't mess with Whittingham.
Don't mess with Kyle.
He'll take you down.
Brandon, why aren't you talking about the Utah Warriors rugby being number 1 in the nation, hosting the Western Conference Final against the Houston SaberCats?
Because I value my job. And it's important to me that we talk about what most people want to hear.
There it is.
Clipped and saved.
I mean, good for them. Way to go.
Yep.
But I got to talk about what the most people want to hear about.
There it is. There it is. All right. There's your feedback. Anything else you would like to share with the people? That's it. It's done.
We're heading into a big time of year, man. The draft next week, NHL draft, BYU football, media days in Big 12 down in Texas, and then we come back, maybe take a week or so vacation, and then camp starts. I'm already getting jacked. I am.
So the NBA draft is next Wednesday and Thursday. The NHL draft is Friday, Saturday.
Right.
Correct.
There's just a boom, 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 4 days in a row.
Right.
Sort it all out.
Right.
And we have a 1 week lull, and as PK said, it's Big 12 media days.
Yeah. And then after that, it's like, basically you wake up and camp is starting. And then a week into camp, I get bored.
We all do.
We all do.
But, maybe for BYU, they very well could have a quarterback competition. And anytime you have that's always the number one thing. Because there's no such thing as a running back competition, because if two guys are battling it, both of them are going to play.
Yep.
One guy can be a starter and get that stuff, but the other guy's had an opportunity to play. But
it's such high stakes at quarterback because one guy's going to get 100% of the snaps.
And BYU, they won't, and I get it, I support it 100%, address that stuff with Retzlaff, I get it, but they're going to have to acknowledge it, and then when camp starts, they've got a season to prepare for.
Right. But
if the kid's there, they'll say, okay, this is why. They have to explain it. This is why we think he should be there. You can't just say, well, we're not going to talk about it if he's out there. And if he's not out there, you got to tell us why. And away we go. And if he's not out there, well, then the other guys, here you go. Who's going to win the job?
But don't make a decision, or in this case, don't make a statement until
there's no point in making a statement
until you
now.
have to. Until you have to.
We're weeks away.
Yeah.
And I get to an extent, they'll have to address it at conference media days.
That's what I was going to say, July 8 and 9.
But they could say, well, we really don't have any new news now. But when camp starts,
he'll either be there or he won't.
Yeah, right. And he can practice and play now, or throw the ball around. That's fine.
It's 3 weeks to media days.
Yeah, and then maybe they'll have some update then, and then. But they've got a season, with or without the kid. They've got a season to get ready for. So they got to go.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're all done. Jake and Ben coming up next with a special guest for Jake. Stay with us.